All right, well, here we go. Podcast number 3 for the All Grit podcast. And as you see, we got my buddy, our friend, your friend, our fellow coach here, Dan Leach. He's going to be on there. We'll go through his whole intro and life backstory here in a little bit. So to discuss real quick today's topic before we get into our gym news and all our other cool things is today's topic. What we're going to talk about is after you've been doing CrossFit for a year and a half, 2 years, maybe even longer, and you feel like you start slamming into that brick wall. And those PRs are few and far between. You feel like those skills you're trying to get aren't coming. And what do you do? How do you push past that? How can you keep getting better and ultimately still keep having fun and enjoying CrossFit? So we'll get into that here in a little bit. So for starters, let's talk about, we got any gym news? We've got a few things.
Yes, we have some big gym news. So the biggest thing, how about that? I'll save the biggest thing for last. Small thing is that we now have an Olympic lifting class on Thursdays at Harborview. So if you aren't a part of the email thread, maybe you haven't dropped by and seen us, the schedule's a little bit different on Thursday nights now. We are going to have a 4:45 to 6 o'clock Olympic lifting class and then a 6 p.m. CrossFit per usual. This will tie into the Olympic lifting class that's on Saturday at the second location. So you don't have to worry about coming to one or the other, it not being the same, it not jiving. It's all a part of the same progression. So if you really are focusing on Olympic lifting, that's something that you have a goal to do, highly, highly, highly recommend getting into both of those classes. The second thing and most important thing is we got a new sign at the second location.
And it's hot.
I mean,
straight fire.
Be honest, it looks good.
It does. It looks really good.
And I'm like, wow, maybe I kind of want to change the sign out here. I know. I'm like, damn, it doesn't look good. But that being said, and it's a lot bigger, so that kind of helps. Yeah. If you've been to the gym and you've seen it in the last 12 hours, you'll notice that it says All Grit Athletics. It doesn't say All Grit Sportsplex. That is because with the sign and not having the turf field anymore, we are going to name it All Grit Athletics South. All gas, baby. So that is why it doesn't say Sportsplex. That is the big news. There's going to be no more turf field for rent for teams. We've kind of deciphered that we do both things, CrossFit and sports rentals, okay, but nothing great. So we're building a wall. We are closing off the turf field entirely. It will no longer be ours. It'll be rented by another company. And with that, we are renovating the inside of All Grit Athletics South. So over the next month or two, we're shooting for October 1st is the goal date to be done. You're going to be seeing a wall going up. You're going to be seeing some walls coming down, some things changing, all in the name of making the gym better and hopefully giving us a little bit more space and utilization of the space. So that's pretty exciting.
I got quite it is. So question for that. Does that mean are you going to have to close the gym for like a few days or from time to time because of the work?
Yeah, so we're going to, that was a great question. Yeah, everyone's out for a month.
We could just pack in here.
Oh, shoot, we could do that, but we're not going to close it. We're going to do everything in phases. So the first thing that'll happen is the offices where you walk in. If you've been in there, you'll kind of understand. All of that's getting torn down. We have 500 doors to enter through. So we'll close off the main door. We'll make sure that that's safe. We'll open up one of the other doors when classes are going on, and that's going to all get renovated while classes still take place on the turf and the blacktop. Once that is done, then it's like a flop. We'll pretty much get out of that way. The builders will start going in to build the wall up where the turf is and stay out of our hair in that regard. So once the flop does happen, we won't have access to the turf. But
like the hours they're working are the least busy hours of the gym.
Yeah, so. Exactly. They'll be like 9:30 till 4:30.
Yeah. And did they give you an estimate how long it'll take so people can what they can expect?
They said it's going to be about 3 to 4 weeks.
That's
Most of that's going to be dependent upon materials, and obviously, like when you open up walls, not knowing what's in there.
Can we help demo?
I'm okay with that.
We could
You
smash.
guys are going to hear why I'm not going to do that.
Hey, look, we have tons of sledgehammers over there. We can all just take out a wall.
Yeah.
Hey, that might be a good team building thing for the coaches.
It might be. How fast? Like bust a wall
Yeah.
down for time.
How fast can we
Yeah.
get
I
the
have
walls
football
down?
helmets at home.
Ooh.
Just run
Let's
through the walls.
Oh my gosh. You guys all signed waivers.
Yep.
But that being said, the other thing that kind of ties to is since we are losing space, now keep in mind we're going to be gaining it with the renovation of the offices and opening up that area, but we're probably going to go back to Saturday classes at both locations. So if you've been with us the last couple of months, we've been doing one Saturday class at All Great Athletics South, All Gas. And that's just been a little bit crazy. The space is going to be set up differently once we do those renovations. And just to make sure that everyone's getting a quality workout and everything is, I don't want to say reasonable, but you don't come in and feel crammed. We're just going to go to 2 separate classes again, I do believe. So that's all I got. That's pretty big stuff, but that's all I got.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah. Stoked.
I'm so excited.
All right. So now did our intro. We got the gym news.
Yep.
Got all our announcements in. So let's talk about questions. What did we get sent in today?
So we got a couple of good ones that I really like. And one of them is going to kind of tie into our topic today. So I'm not going to talk about that one, but someone did ask a really good question about plateauing. One that's kind of light is, who's your favorite dog, Peyton or Bullet? Someone asked me that.
Which one is which?
So Peyton is the lab,
Okay.
and Bullet is the shepherd. Here, let me pull up a picture for you guys to see how cute they are. If you cannot see, look at these guys.
I'm sure she'll show you a picture if you ask.
Yeah, don't worry.
Yeah.
If you come up to me in the gym, you'll get to see these little guys. It depends on the day. Peyton's my favorite most days. I'm not even going to lie. He's my goofball. He's my firstborn. Bullet's also a really great dog, and he listens better. Like, Peyton's my socialite. So when we're around people, Peyton doesn't listen worth crap. But Bullet does, so that's when I like him better. It all just depends. Depends on how I'm feeling that day. So that's my favorite. Do you guys have a favorite kid? I know you do.
I only have one.
Yeah, you only have
That's
one.
the point, Dan.
I do have a favorite kid. It changes though from time to time.
I
tell
feel
them
you.
both that.
Yeah.
They're both great, but from time to time. Lately, it's pretty equal.
Yeah?
But there are
Aw.
times, yeah.
Good.
Yeah, you want to kick one right in the rear end. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, they say it's bad to have a favorite kid, but I've heard people say, like, I don't always like you, but I always love you. That's how I feel sometimes.
Yeah.
That's along the
Yeah.
lines of like, I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed.
I'm just disappointed.
I'd say right
Great.
now maybe it's Peyton because Paige owes me $5. She still hasn't paid me from
your bet?
from betting me in a workout. Yeah,
Paige.
she-
And I know
she
you're
wants to
making
double
money
down.
now.
she probably
She wants to double down.
double or
Ooh,
nothing.
double or nothing?
Yeah, but if it's double or nothing, I'm picking the workout,
There you
not
go.
her.
Yeah, because she picked it last
Yeah,
time.
that's only
yeah.
fair. It's
Ooh,
only fair.
I kind of like this.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was kind of a fun one, not a very serious one. And then someone else asked, tips for beginners, CrossFit, and weightlifting. I'll let you two take over this one.
Oh, go ahead, Dan.
I guess I would say lean on your coaches. So that's why we're here, is to kind of support and make sure everybody's, number one, doing things safe, and then number two, meeting the stimulus of the workout, right? So
Yep.
that would be my biggest recommendation is if your coach knows that you are a newer person and they are not coming up to you before the workout, they're being a bad coach.
Yep.
And so lean on your coaches, right? Don't be afraid to ask them, say, hey, I don't know what's going on, or I'm not super comfortable doing this, right? If they're not proactively doing that for
Yep.
you.
Yeah.
That would be my biggest recommendation.
Yeah, that's good information. Good advice. I would also say take it slow, and don't expect to learn everything day one, first month. I mean, there's so many. If you've never even done CrossFit or even read about it barely,
Yeah, you don't even know
you're
the
gonna know
words.
what's
Yeah.
AMRAP mean,
It's-
what's an
yeah.
EMOM.
Yeah.
Like, just ask questions and just take it slow, and don't worry about how much weight you're lifting. And especially do not worry about what the person next to you or around you is doing.
Yeah,
just do
please
your
don't.
thing,
Yeah.
hit the stimulus, and and then just try to have fun.
Yeah, enjoy the process too. Yeah, you got to understand that this stuff doesn't come naturally. It's not to say it doesn't come naturally, but it doesn't come overnight, right? It's something that you guys have to work towards, and like we've been doing this for forever, and we're still working towards things, which I'm sure we'll get into as the podcast goes on.
And my wheels are turning, and I'm thinking of more tips, right?
Yeah.
Is the other thing too is if you really want to enjoy CrossFit, and especially and get good at it, because I mean, truly, the better you get at different things, or knowing what you can do or what you need to scale or modify, the more fun you'll have.
Yeah.
Is try to come as much as you can.
That was my thing.
Find a schedule that you can come to, and then at the same time, also try to hit some different classes. Like, let's say you're used to going at 5:30 in the morning. Don't be afraid. Okay, I have to go to work early. Don't be afraid to come in the afternoon and meet new people, meet new coaches. Yeah. Like you and me used to be regular at the old gym, morning. But then life changes. Like you had your first kid. I retired from the military and got a real job.
Yeah.
And I can't always usually work out in the morning. So it is what it is. And I mean, there's times we don't even work out during a class because we don't have a choice, or it just works out that way. So, and be open-minded. Another thing I like to do too, like the new couple that was here today that I met, I gave them some homework and I wrote stuff on the board back there, and I said, I want you to go look all this up on YouTube.
Yeah.
Right? Like I gave them snatch, clean and jerk. I said, type that in and type CrossFit after it. And, because sometimes it helps to get that visual.
Absolutely.
Right? And I said,
go home and drink the Kool-Aid.
Right.
They're coming back tomorrow.
One of us.
Knee sleeves, belt. Let's go.
So I spent $600 at Noble last night.
I'm like, good. I bet you can do a muscle up now. But no, that helps sometimes for some people to get a visual.
Yeah.
And especially when you're new, is look at the workout ahead of time, and you can look at some of the movements, and you have some, or say, hey, if you know ahead of time you got an injury and you're like, I'm not sure I can do that, helps your coach too.
Yeah, and
absolutely.
I think the flip side of the coin of that too, and we'll kind of wrap this up because I know we got a bunch of stuff to talk about.
It's all good, man. We got hours.
The flip side of the coin is also lean on the community, right? Like, like for me, especially at times, this has been a social thing as much as it's been like a fitness thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, introduce yourself to people, kind of like see who's going on, like talk to people because they might have some stuff that you can talk about too. So.
Yeah.
And when you see a new person, remember you were new. Go introduce yourself.
Oh my gosh, please do. Cornell, I still miss you, the mayor of AGA, OG, because you would always make a new face feel welcome. I mean, I agree with what both of y'all said. My only thing is, like, just keep showing up. You know, like, everything's scary at first, but you keep showing up and it's less scary. So that's the only thing I can add to that, which you guys both touched on.
And don't be like me and Dan, where you see us not doing the warm-up and we're talking about the latest Marvel movie.
Ooh,
Call
call them out. Call them out.
Did you figure out who George Lucas was yet?
I mean, I did Google some things.
Okay.
I'm still just
What's he most well known for?
I don't know.
Seriously?
Look, I had 3 or 4 people go, I didn't know who George Lucas was.
We're just disappointed.
Okay, thanks,
just
Dad.
Disappointed. Okay. Any more questions you want to hit?
Let's see here. Beginners. Who's my favorite doggo? One that I really liked, and I just think it's important for me to say this, is from 1 to 100, how full is your heart seeing the dreams you've actively pursued come to life? Ooh. I know, I was like, why am I so emotional this morning? I was reading this like almost in tears. But I just feel like it's important for me to say, because like people close to me probably are like, you're so stressed, like everything's so hard, and it is hard. Like it's very stressful, but like at a 0 to 100, like 1 million. Like it's so inspiring to be in here every day, and I'm so grateful and thankful and just like truly blessed to have like superior coaching staff like you guys, have great members who care about me and check on me daily. Like more than anything, I know I get down in the dumps maybe about things, but
I've literally never seen you down in the dumps.
Really? That's good. I'm glad I'm hiding.
I told you if I ever see you like not say good morning, I'm leaving.
You're like, hell has frozen over.
Yeah,
get me out of here.
See ya. Forgot I got a thing. I gotta go.
I don't know. It's just I really want people to know that like I appreciate everyone. I love that you're here, and like I hope to keep growing the community and doing as best we can to like support people in their fitness dreams and like in their life, right? Like you said, it's more than just fitness. It's a community, and that's selfishly my favorite part of the whole thing.
So is your happy meter still higher than your burnout meter?
Oh, yeah. Good. Oh, yeah. And especially this week with the renovations, like, going through and the new sign going up, I am, like,
dopamine rush.
Yeah, I'm, like, ready to rock
Like you see stuff happening.
Yeah, it's cool.
Good.
And it's, like, I was telling someone this yesterday. It's, like, mine now. I've always felt like when we bought the second location that it was just hard to, it wasn't ours. It was like we're just kind of stepping in. And now that we're going to do some things that like kind of change the look, kind of change the vibe, I'm like, okay, this is mine. And like I'm ready to like just jump in the saddle and get going.
Right on.
So,
all right.
yeah.
Well, the question I got from you, and maybe we'll make this a tradition, all right? So this is would you rather, okay?
I'm scared.
Would you rather fight a horse-sized rooster or 100 rooster-sized horses?
Oh.
I know my answer, so.
Same.
Okay, you guys go first.
No,
then.
this is your question because I want to hear your logic.
I know exactly who this came from.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised that it was the rooster and not some other animals. But one horse-sized rooster or 100 rooster-sized horses?
Yeah, so either a giant freaking rooster that's the size of a horse or a bunch of little tiny horses.
I mean, I'm going to go with a giant-sized rooster, I feel like.
You're a complete
But
failure.
no, you said rooster-sized.
No, a horse. You know how big a horse is.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I'm
Yeah.
thinking like a bunch of roosters the size
So
of
a
horses.
rooster that's like 8 or 9 feet tall.
Are horses that tall?
Yes.
I mean, some of them can be, I
Yes.
Horses
guess.
are large.
They're
15
like
hands.
1,500 pounds.
Okay, now that you say it like that, 100 horses the size of roosters.
Yeah.
Okay, I would do that.
Yeah, same.
But I don't know.
Why?
I mean, I don't want to know if I want to fight them. I just want to keep them.
You got you. This is life or death.
They're cute.
You're not starting
all
a
grit petting zoo coming soon.
right. You're not starting a pygmy zoo.
I don't know. I mean, I guess it'd be easy to kick. That's the only thing I can think
That's
of.
my
Yeah.
vision. I would
Yeah.
just start.
Send them to the moon, dude.
Yep, like
Yeah,
Yep.
send them to the
Yep.
moon.
50-yard
You
line
ever
field
seen
goal.
those like
Pow, pow, pow.
chihuahuas?
Yeah.
Just kidding.
There's no way you'd win against a horse-sized rooster.
Nah.
You don't think?
That giant beak.
No, it'd be like.
Oh, I didn't even
It's
think about
talons?
those
Yeah.
talons. I
Yeah.
don't think. Okay, that's a very good point.
And they can't really fly, but still they can jump up and
Yeah,
bam.
they can really. Okay, the talons alone is a good reason, and the beak.
Yep.
Yeah. Melissa's horse farm.
Yeah. See, that one's almost as good as this ultimate question we had at work one time: is who wins in a fight, a grizzly bear or a silverback gorilla?
A silverback gorilla.
That's what I say, but like,
I don't know.
I've seen
They have
people.
thumbs.
Grizzly bears are gigantic.
They are, but they're not as agile.
But
I feel
gorillas
like.
are like 7-to-1 or whatever that ratio is, times stronger for their size than a man.
Yeah.
So like, if that gorilla got the bear in a rear naked choke, it's tap or nap, baby.
I don't know if they know how to do that.
I don't know either.
I don't know, but they have thumbs. They can figure it out. I
Yeah.
feel like.
Right? They have opposable thumbs.
Oh my gosh. We've drifted. We've
Oh,
drifted.
that's okay. That's what makes it fun.
I know. I do.
Bring it
Hey,
back.
I'm cool
All
with
right.
the would you rather's every time. That'd
Yeah.
be fun.
Yeah.
Something just ridiculous.
Oh yeah, they're gonna get worse too.
Okay.
And they have to be after the 5 minutes, otherwise
Yeah,
our
otherwise
videos will
somebody's
get
gonna
banned.
leave.
And not safe for children. So, all right.
I
so
love it.
let's get this topic going. Right, talking about the Bears, we're hitting CrossFit. Before we do that, let's get into your backstory, Dan. Let's talk about.
Tell us more.
Tell us about your upbringing, where you're from, and how you got to where you are
I
now.
got like 3 pages of stuff here.
I know
That's
he
awesome.
really
Let's
does
do
have
it.
some good notes.
Yeah. Well, first off, let me say, I know I'm the first guest on the podcast,
Hell
so
yeah.
I know you guys have some pretty heavy hitters lined up. So it's an honor
It's
to
good
be
to
the
get
yeah,
done,
man.
Get it in and get it
guest.
out.
Yeah. So hopefully, like only up to go after me. So,
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But
It can only get better after you got your hot girl summer car.
Hot
dude,
girl
that's
summer.
right. That's right. Watch out. So like Chris said, my name's Dan Leach. I'm 31 years old.
Write that down. Write that down.
Write that down. Yeah, so I've been doing CrossFit since 2015. Right after I graduated from school, I started doing CrossFit.
Where'd you go to school?
I'll get there.
Okay,
I got
okay.
a whole thing.
Give me your spiel, then I'll ask.
I'll give you the spiel. So,
I'm excited.
I was born in Fairfax, Virginia. We kind of moved around a lot growing up. So my parents weren't in the military or anything like that, but my parents just kind of got new jobs, and we moved around a little bit. So we lived in upstate New York, in Michigan, in Chicago, and then in 2003 they finally kind of settled in Annapolis, Maryland. So I consider myself from like just south of Annapolis, Maryland. I played football pretty much all growing up, like from the age of like 3rd grade, whatever age that is.
What position?
Offensive line.
All the time? Always?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I was always.
You were labeled because you were just the biggest
I was
kid,
just
weren't
about
you?
to say that. I was like, were you always bigger, or?
Yeah, so I was just about to say, so like when I played youth football, like it wasn't, nowadays it's all based upon age, right? So you can weigh whatever you want to weigh. Well, back when I played, back in my day,
31 years old.
like when I played, it was all based upon weight. And so like I always played, so I always played a weight class up, or like a year group up, because I always weighed a little bit more.
Was it Pop Warner you guys played up there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, so I was always like a little bit bigger, and not by much, but like maybe 10, 15 pounds bigger than like the kids of my same age group, right? So I kind of didn't come into my own as far as football goes, and like really settling into like liking it and having it be a sport until high school.
Okay.
I wrestled in high school as well, so I was a 2-sport athlete in high school. But like my junior year of high school is when I kind of like really settled into like football as my thing. Like I said, I grew up playing football. My dad played football at Ohio State. Like grew up.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
That's an accomplishment.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So like grew up a football fan. Always was like football was my thing. But again, like I just didn't really come into my own until my junior year. And I think that was in large part due to my offensive line coach at the time, Mitch Sipley. He just awesome human being, but like rode me like a rented mule. Like I used to like look out at the parking lot in practice, and I've told him this, and he thinks it's funny, but I've told him this. I used to look out at the parking lot before practice and see if his truck was there.
Really?
Like, yeah.
Like if he wasn't there, you'd leave, or would want to go?
Leave, but I'd just be like, God,
yeah.
I gotta, whatever.
So let me ask
I hope he watches this.
When you say
he'll laugh.
when you say come into your own, meaning you got good, or like that's when you really started to like it?
No, I loved it the whole time, but that was kind of like when I'll put myself on blast. I have no problem with that. But like I was always kind of a softer player. I guess you could put it that way, right? So it's not that I avoided contact or anything like that, but I just I don't know, for whatever reason I was just a softer player. And then junior year, for whatever reason, I flipped a switch and
you got mean.
Yeah,
Let's go, Dan.
You got that mean streak.
So it wasn't until the beginning of my senior year I kind of realized like, hey, this could be something that I do a little bit longer term. And so as I started to kind of look at colleges and stuff like that, I started getting recruited to play football in college. And so ended up at the Merchant Marine Academy. So that's where I went to college, is the United States Merchant Marine Academy.
Thank you.
So I started there, went there, played football, and it's a service academy. So we do the whole like plebe thing. So played football there my freshman and sophomore year. And had an injury my junior year that kind of kept me out. And then another injury my senior year that just kind of, with the conglomeration of injuries and stuff like that, and then the commission coming up and graduation and everything like that, we just decided it wasn't going to happen.
So did you pretty much, you were still on the team, but you kind of spent 2 years rehabbing type thing?
Yeah, I was still on the team. I did a lot of filming, so that was cool. I know the coaches appreciated that, because I took a lot of pride in that.
Yeah.
Like, it was my contribution to the team was like, hey, I got to do it. Yeah. And then rehabbing it and doing stuff like that was kind of how I supported the team.
Okay.
But so this is kind of the start of the whole story. So the day I found out I wasn't going to be able to play football anymore, obviously, like I'm studying to be a marine engineer. We have pretty heavy caseload of classes, right? And so I had a lab report that was due that same day that like I legitimately found out my football career was over. And so I didn't want to do it. I wanted to go to the bar. And so I got a copy of my roommate's lab report, copied and pasted it, turned it in, and went out, right? The following... Yeah, here we go.
So
Strap in. So the following week, right, our teacher calls us into his office and is like, hey, I need to know, like,
who did what.
Did what. And I was like, I did the sections that you're talking about. He was like, all right, well, you copied and pasted this person's section in the thing. And I was like, yeah, I did.
Good for you for owning it.
You got me.
Yeah.
I did it. So like the honor, there's an honor code at service academies, right? And so I turned myself in for an honor board, went through the honor board process, and my punishment was taking a year off of school. So I did one trimester. So that we're in trimesters at Merchant Marine Academy.
Yeah.
So I did one trimester my senior year, and then got set back, which is what they call it. Take a year off, you're set back. So I got set back. I went home. I worked for my offensive line coach, Mitsuple's construction company. I hung drywall and was a laborer for them for
Let's
a year.
go.
Which was terrible. I mean,
Yes.
I love Niche to death, but it was definitely like
That's
a kick
terrible
in the
work.
ass for
Gave you a whole new respect to blue collar.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, like I liked the work. Like I'm not afraid of hard work, as you
Yeah,
guys know.
yeah.
Like we do this every day.
Yeah.
You know, you gotta have a little dog in
Yeah.
you to want
Little
to do
dog.
this. But
Dog.
you know, like it definitely made me realize like I have something to lose. And up until
Right.
that point, did I get the best grades? No, but I always kind of skated by, was always doing okay, and just kind of like made things work. But at that point, it kind of like things fell into place where I could lose everything.
Okay.
And, like I could lose everything where I've already signed my commitment, and I gotta basically go enlist and do, which would have been fine.
So you
but,
would have
like,
had to go enlisted and pay that money back, basically, or for
Yeah.
time. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So go back to school. This is 2014 now that I am back at school. Go back to school, kind of start over with a new class. My second senior year is what I call it. So second senior year, go back to senior year, or second senior year, going through classes, like absolutely destroying classes. We're working up towards our license exams, which are like Coast Guard license exams, where we get like, at the end of the year, basically like your capstone event for the entire like curriculum is these Coast Guard license exams, which are like 7 70-question tests that basically test everything that you've learned in school. And then at the end, it qualifies you to get your Coast Guard license. And like for us, it's third assistant engineer, unlimited horsepower, steam, diesel, gas turbine. And so we're working up towards that.
You're like, what? All the different types of engines.
Thank you.
Yeah, big boats, boats. Yeah.
Big butts.
Boats, not butts.
Whatever. Yeah. So we're working up towards that, and I know I have like a physical readiness test that's coming up because we get a commission as well out of school, right? And so the PRT, what we call it, is like max push-ups, max sit-ups, and then a 1.5 mile run.
So same as
And
Navy standard PRT.
Because it's for a Navy commission. Right?
So were you? Oh, it was it was a Navy commission you're getting. Okay.
Yeah. So, so they do the PRT in the spring. I'm like training for it, but not really super training for it. I'm just kind of like taking it nonchalant, sort of figuring it out, being like, hey, this will just kind of work out. And I failed the first one.
Damn.
And so they always have a makeup, and I failed the makeup.
What part did you
And
fail?
The run. Yeah, so failed the makeup.
What was the run? How fast do you have to run?
12 minutes.
A mile?
and a half in 12 minutes.
A mile and a half.
12 minutes, yeah.
I mean, that's cooking for most
Yeah,
people.
it's-
So
Yeah,
I mean, like I said, I was always a bigger guy. Like, I think my playing weight in college was like 270, 265 or something like that.
really? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and I've held that. I mean, like, so right now for the viewers out there, I'm
Very lean, Dan.
235.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's usually like, I hopefully get a little lower, but again, we'll talk about that later. So, so I...
So you failed the makeup.
Yeah, failed the makeup, and then so I still am prepping for license. Like, we're still finishing out classes and everything like that. And my company officer, he actually like comes up to my room and is like, "Hey, we need to do another one for you. Like, we need to make sure you can pass, and we need to get this kind of squared away before you can graduate." So,
What was your weight at the time?
I was probably 250.
Okay.
Yeah, I was probably 250. So we go out, me and my buddies are running with me, and I'll never forget, we're like rounding the corner. We run on a track, right? And we're rounding the last corner, and like I have like 10 seconds left. And they literally pushed me over the finish line. And I
Damn.
finished in like 11:58.
Yes, those are some friends right there, Dan.
So like I am like dying on the ground, and they're like, "Did he do it? Did he do it? Did he do it?"
Yeah.
And so
what a moment.
So I pass it. I think I'm good. You know, we're all tracking towards graduating and doing all that sort of stuff. And we'd go through license exams, which like the week of license exams, you're like, I probably got 4 hours of sleep, like just tweaked out of our minds.
Yeah.
We're up, like me and my buddy Sam O'Donnell used to basically like put a Disturbed album on YouTube, listen to the whole thing, and like you're literally reading through 14,000 questions, of just like
Oh my
thousands
gosh.
of illustrations, all of these different things, just basically trying to memorize as much as you can, right?
Yeah.
And so like we're just like, you get done with the exams and like all you want to do is sleep and do all this sort of stuff. So we get done, you get done in the morning, and then you get your grades in the afternoon. and like they do this big bell ringing ceremony. It's actually really, really cool. I'll show you guys the video at some point. But so I get done with the exams. I go back to my room. I like pass out, and my company officer comes and knocks on my door, and he's like, "Hey, the commandant wants to see you right now."
I am stressed, Dan.
Yeah. So the commandant, so commandant wants to see you right now, and I'm like, "Oh God, all right, what did I do? Like, whatever." So I go into his office. Captain Bob is staff in his office, and he says, "Dan, you didn't pass the PRT. You were going to defer your graduation. You are not going to walk at graduation, and you'll come back at NDOC. You'll work NDOC as a company officer, and then we'll do another PRT for you in like 3 weeks." I already had a job at this point, so like I'm starting at Norfolk Naval Shipyard at the end of July, right? And so this is June.
Oh wow!
So I have to walk out of the commandant's office. You got questions?
I thought, what do you mean you didn't pass it?
So that one, I guess it didn't count.
Oh.
I don't know, but it didn't count. The one that I passed.
When you
didn't
said
count.
we think we're good, that's why I was like, oh my gosh, dun dun dun, here it comes.
So I have to walk out of that office. I hadn't got the grade. I hadn't figured out if I passed license yet. I have to walk out of that office and call my entire family and tell them.
Oh my
gosh, I want to cry for you right now.
I didn't pass.
Don't come to graduation.
You can't come to graduation. I've already spent 5 years here. Like I have never felt like I've disappointed anybody more in my entire life, right? So I passed license on the first go around, right, which is awesome. Like that high of passing license definitely helped out.
That's
right?
let's be honest, it's probably easier to run your mile again than to do that again.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. It's like the funnest thing I would never do again. Like looking back, they're very fond memories. Like they're very fond memories of just being absolutely tweaked out of our minds. Like, I'm not.
And you're like, holy crap, we did that.
Yeah. And like every Kings Pointer has that same experience. So it's kind of like it's a relatable.
How many
thing.
questions are those tests?
70.
And you have to take 5 or 6 of them?
You take 7 of them.
Woo.
And they might be different now.
Yeah. And you have to pass with what kind of score?
You have to get over a 70.
Okay.
Okay, so what's that, like a D, a C?
Depends where you go to school. In California, it's a C.
Yeah.
Woo,
so
baby.
I go back to school. So I go home, go back to school. I had trained a little bit more in my off time, and I passed, right?
Yeah.
So I passed, graduated. It was actually kind of neat because I had like my own private graduation ceremony with the superintendent and stuff like that. My parents came up, so that was kind of neat.
That's kind of cool.
So that's 2015, right? So during that time when I was back at school, I went and visited a buddy of mine who lived in New Jersey, and he had started doing CrossFit because he had graduated on time. And so he had started doing CrossFit, and so I had known about CrossFit somewhat just because. So my wrestling coach in high school, we always did CrossFit style workouts. He actually owned a CrossFit gym at one point. So I had always kind of like dipped my toes in the water, just with like being a wrestler and doing all that sort of stuff. And so I went and visited my buddy Dave for the 4th of July, and he was like, "Hey, I'm gonna go do this workout tomorrow. Do you want to come and do it?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely. I have to like train for this. What could it hurt?" And like hook, line, sinker, I'm in it, right? So I do the workout. It's incredible. I can tell you what it is to this day. I remember it.
What was the workout?
It was 12-minute AMRAP of 12 box jumps, 6 thrusters, and 6 burpees over the bar.
Nice.
Yeah.
That sounds nasty.
Yeah. Every once in a while, I kind of like retest it.
Yeah, just to see.
Just for fun.
Aww.
So I moved down here in 2015. I moved over into the apartments over in Harborview, and working at Norfolk Naval Shipyard, and the original Pivot Point, which turned into Slice eventually.
R.I.P.
Yeah, R.I.P. to Pivot Point too. Is over by like the Kroger shopping center, right? And so like it just so happened that like I was really close, and so like walked in there and just like completely fell in love with it. Like just the community was awesome, the gym was awesome, and so like obviously just went all the way in on it. And so I like was just a regular athlete from like middle of 2015 to the beginning of 2016, and then like I kind of learned. I obviously had no idea like about the organization of CrossFit and how the coaches and all that sort of stuff worked. So I kind of like found out how the credentialing process worked and like kind of what that process was like. and talked to one of the owners, JT, and was like, hey, would there ever be an opportunity for me to coach here? I would really like to kind of like make an impact on people's lives, right? And so, he was like, yeah, absolutely. The first step is kind of getting your level 1. So I went and took my level 1 in February of 2016, and started coaching in June, and just have never looked back, right?
And you didn't even wait that long to go do your level 2, huh?
No, so level 2 was November of 2017. I was the last level 2. I think it might have been technically October, but like end of October of 2017. So I was the last level 2 class that didn't have to take a test. So it was just like show up, do the 2.
Wow.
Yeah, dude.
Can we even count? No, just kidding.
I re-upped it. It's re-upped.
Yeah, he redid it.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
So, so got my level 2 in 2017.
Did you do it down here?
Yeah,
Where at?
Did it at Takeover.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where I got my level 1.
Yeah. So did Rife was level 1, and then Takeover was level 2.
Same here.
Yeah.
Well, no, I was opposite.
Yeah.
Level 1 was Takeover. Level 2 was Rife.
So I mean,
but mostly the same instructors. So.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And so my goal with coaching was always and still is like, I want to help people be the best versions of themselves, but also like, I don't want anybody to ever feel like I felt I didn't graduate on time, didn't do that
because of
things,
something like that.
Yeah, and so like if I could help somebody avoid that.
So it's like you refuse to. I don't want to ever feel like that again.
Yeah,
I'm not going.
And that's like my
crap.
own fitness goals, but also like coaching. I don't want to. If I can help somebody avoid a situation like that, I'm all about it. So
hell yeah.
When
in there did you get married to Chelsea?
That was we're not even there yet.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we're not even there yet. So we're still in 2017.
So did you know? So what year was it? It was 13. Didn't you get underway for a while?
Yeah. So during
Dan and I were near each other before we knew each other,
Yeah.
and he had
Really?
a picture of me before that. Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
kind of weird, but cool.
So in the Merchant Marine Academy curriculum, you go out to sea for a year, and it's split between your sophomore and junior
Oh my
year.
gosh,
So,
there's so much.
yeah, there's a lot going on there. Like we do 174 and a half credits in like basically 3 years.
Good Lord.
You go out to sea because you have to get the practical experience to sit for your license to be able to get your license, right? So I was on 4 different ships through my sophomore and junior year. In 2013 I was on the USS Ponce.
I buzzed the tower.
Yeah. And so like,
and I got in trouble.
I think at Tidewater,
I just got yelled at.
I think at Tidewater one day we were randomly talking about how like I was on the Ponce, and he was like, when were you on the Ponce? And I was like 2013, and he was like, oh. Well.
And then a couple hours later, he sends me a text of me flying my hovercraft by his ship.
Shut up! That's so cool.
Yeah,
what a small world.
Yeah. So I had a lot of really cool experiences before I was even like 21 years old.
Yeah.
Like I turned 21 in Dubai.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Okay. I mean, that makes up for the extra senior year.
Yeah. But no. So I'm coaching at Pivot Point. I coached there for. From 2016 until 2018, maybe even the beginning of 2019. I can't remember, but like right around when Chelsea and I got married, it was which is in 2018. Chelsea's my amazing wife.
Hey, it's good you just remembered the date.
Yeah. September 29th. It's coming out, or 28th. Sorry, no, 29th. Sorry.
Don't shoot yourself in the foot.
Hey, cut that out.
I'll edit it.
No, it's the 29th. We'll be this year will be 5 years. So But so I coached there, and then for 3 or 4 years, was doing a class every day. Coached the morning class for every day for like a year and a half straight, which I don't.
That's
recommend.
a lot.
Yeah,
That's a lot.
Never had a class that nobody showed up to.
Oh,
I was like,
okay.
there was a lot of classes where it was like 1 or 2 people.
Yeah.
But never had a class that nobody showed up in.
Dang.
Yeah. So that was really cool. But I'd been there for a while, and things were kind of changing over between Pivot Point and Slice, and it was just kind of like I considered myself at that point like the last of the old guard, I guess you could say. And so it was just kind of like time for me to roll and try and do something different, just for my own fitness and also my own like mental health. It was like time to just do something different. So that was when I kind of left, and I think it was right before you guys started to go there.
Yeah.
Was Taylor going there with you too at the same time?
Yeah,
Taylor Wade?
Yeah,
Okay.
He left first, and then Taylor was like, dude, you got to come to Tidewater. And I was like,
oh, okay.
Fine.
Twist my arm.
Yeah, so then I worked out at Tidewater, and then
Yeah.
I was at Tidewater until my son was born in this past year, 2022, right? And so
I know. I kind of forget what year it
And
is.
this dude,
right.
so he comes to Tidewater, right? We all become friends, morning crew or whatever. And you were there for a hot minute before you're all of a sudden, I have my level 2. I was like, really? Because I had my level 1 and I was coaching.
I think I like wore a coach shirt one day, and Corey was like,
Well,
What
I
is
caught
that?
on to it because we were talking about class because he told me, hey, good class or whatever. When we
Yeah.
started chatting, I was like, and I'm looking at him because some of the things he's saying is
Like,
like, oh, I have my level 2. I was like,
interesting.
oh, cool. And then, he eventually started doing some coaching there with us too.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I coached
Little
there.
secretive, Dan.
Yeah, fun.
Same here.
he holds a lot of secrets. Like the first time I saw this big bastard flip up and walk on his hands like it was nothing. I was
Yeah, you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa,
yeah,
whoa, whoa.
yeah, you're not supposed to be able to do that.
That defies all physics.
Yeah, he's like, it's my party trick.
That's right. That's right.
That's so good.
Yeah, and so there's been some. I don't even know how you guys want me to approach this, but I'll just kind of roll right into it, and then we can kind of we can
pick it apart, man.
Springboard. We can springboard this kind of into the topic of what we want to talk about today. So.
Okay.
That's kind of my story. Obviously, I started here like right after you opened,
Yeah.
and started coaching here in March, right after my birthday. And so, like, this place really reinvigorated my love for CrossFit. I think both because like you come in here and you see you guys, like you and Sam and everybody work out, like who are these absolute dogs, and you're like, holy crap, like. These people are legit. Like you guys
nice.
make people want to get better, right?
Oh,
But also, with my son being born, you definitely like take a little bit of an introspective look of like, hey, how am I living my life? Like, and my dad had been going through some heart problems for a couple of years, kind of like leading up to this, and like, so. For those that don't know or follow, I've been gone the last couple of days from the gym, and this is July 27th.
You've been putting in a lot of miles on the hot girl summer car.
A lot of miles on the hot girl.
38 miles to the gallon, baby. But so my dad had a heart transplant on Tuesday. And so he's doing good. He's in recovery. He's doing all of these things. But, this is just kind of what has been led up to kind of what's been going on. He had some contributing factors to it and stuff like that. But kind of when my son was born, that was when things really started to roll with that. And so I really took an introspective look of like, hey, how do I want to live my life? Like, and he's going to have to make some very dramatic changes to his life, going forward to be able to live a full life for what he has left, right? And so, I kind of realized like, hey, I need to make some small changes right now, focusing on nutrition, focusing on really like what are my goals of the gym, or what are my why am I going to the gym, right?
Yeah, what are my health goals, even
yeah.
outside of the gym? Yeah.
And then so I can make these small changes now, so I eventually don't have to make these dramatic changes, and hopefully kind of carry that through the rest of my life, right?
Right.
And so. Like counting macros was huge. I've lost 30 pounds and
Look,
Yeah, dude.
I'm
You're
not
lean,
going to
yeah.
stop like talking about Dan. Every
Yeah.
time he takes his shirt off now, I'm like, who is that
Every time
guy?
I get ready to eat a cookie, I'm like, freaking Dan.
Dan's doing
Yeah,
it.
when I
Dan's not doing that.
Put it,
Yeah.
that's what I've been doing lately.
Dan is doing that.
Yeah.
Dan is doing that.
But I'm counting it in my macros.
But so, and like, I mean, obviously it's a journey, right? And so it's definitely like, I've had my ups and downs with CrossFit over the years, right? Like when I first started, like we're gonna go on and talk about, like, right, when I first started, like I lost a bunch of weight when I first started. I have no idea how much I weighed just because I didn't track it. I was only eating chicken and broccoli because I like was so broke that I could only eat
Afford
chicken and broccoli. And so like I wasn't tracking my nutrition or anything like that. But
and you're younger, so like it's just easier.
And so like I crushed it for a while, and then like life comes about you, and then like this crazy thing called COVID, and my wife and I went through some infertility stuff and everything like that, and so just like life stacks on top of you, and some things get kind of like put on the back burner, and then things happen where you're like, oh wow, I really should probably focus on this a little bit
Dude,
more.
you've had basically just about every possible barrier or excuse to not work out.
For
and you
real.
Keep doing it, man.
Yeah.
That's,
That's a good
keep
testament.
showing up, man.
Yeah,
Gotta
I
keep
think
showing- well, so number one,
I think people can take that as like a kind of piece of advice to think about.
Number one, I have to thank my wife for always supporting me.
Yeah.
Because she,
Holds down the fort.
She holds down the fort, and she definitely, like, there are times when I am gone from her and she is like stuck at home with our son, and I don't want to say stuck, but like she's at home with her son, our son by herself, and she's
It's hard. Having a new baby's hard.
And so like, but she's extremely supportive of me, like kind of like it's turned into, it was always an outlet. Exercise was always an outlet for me.
Right.
Like this has turned into very much an outlet, which has been huge. But I'm extremely thankful for her for like supporting me and coaching and doing all of these different things.
Things that
So-
take away time from your
From her,
family.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
Cooper's healthy, right? He's doing
Yeah.
good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
See, that's
Yeah,
important.
he's a nutcase.
Yeah.
He's awesome.
Yeah, he sent.
He's so cute.
He posted a picture the other day of his hair. Normally, when I'm not wearing a hat, my faux hawk, and Cooper had a faux hawk, and he's like, "This is called the lift with your back." My Instagram tag. So, kid's gonna be big because Chelsea's not short. So when he starts
No.
playing football, I already volunteered to help coach football.
I'm already excited to see him grow up.
Yeah, I can't wait to start bringing him in here.
Yeah. Oh,
it's,
yeah, gym
it's
baby.
Gonna be, it's gonna be awesome. But yeah, no. So yeah, we've been through a lot over the past couple of years. I guess I can talk about the infertility stuff if you guys want me to.
That's up to you if you think it's
I don't
something
mind.
you want to talk about.
Yeah.
So I think that was so. My wife and I very much. My wife and I had a difficult time getting pregnant. And it was all happened like when COVID kind of started. So
Ooh, that's even tougher, man.
Yeah, so like as you guys know, right? They ran out of toilet paper at the grocery store, but they sure as shit didn't run out of beer. So that definitely didn't help.
Yeah.
No, so we did 3 rounds of IUI, which one of them ended in a miscarriage. One of them, IUI, for those that don't know, is like they get an embryo ready for her, and then they take my stuff and they put it all in there in the same time. Sorry, I don't know how to talk about it, but and they put it all in there in the same time and hope nature does what it's supposed to do, right?
Yeah.
None of that worked.
And it's not cheap, is it? And
Oh
It's
no,
not
it's not cheap.
cheap.
I can tell you
Yeah.
how much we spent over 3 years, and it's
Yeah.
not.
pay for
it's
your
a-
hot girl summer car.
Yeah, and some. Yeah. And so, and then we did IVF, which is where they get her all drugged up, and they get they have their body release a bunch of eggs, and then they harvest the eggs, and then they fertilize
And that is
them.
tough on like not only like just physically for both of you, but just mentally
I
and
think-
emotionally.
Yeah, so like we dealt with that for 2.5 years, and
That is so
emotionally
tough.
more than anything. Obviously, like my part in that was so incredibly small. So like being there to support my wife and like just seeing the kind of her run through the gamut of emotions on top of the emotions that come from the medications that
Oh,
she was
God
on and
bless
everything
her.
like that. It was difficult for sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, we did 2 rounds of IVF, or we did a round of IVF. We did 2 transfers, and they both failed, and then somehow we magically got pregnant. So very
God'll do
extremely
it.
thankful. Yeah, we
Yeah.
don't know if that's like a 1 in a million.
I mean, that was a
shot
long
or-
process, man, because we were at Tidewater
Yeah, we
together
were-
the whole
yeah.
time. And you know what's crazy is you don't realize how many people have gone through something similar
yeah.
Completely agree.
when you start talking about it. And it almost felt like, I check on him, hey, man, like
Yeah.
when he'd tell me it didn't work, I'm like, man, that sucks. Like,
There's a couple people in our gym right now that are kind of going through the same thing. So
Yeah.
I would
feel for you guys,
That'd be
for
a
sure.
really good that would be a really good podcast eventually as well.
Yeah.
Like just that,
Yeah.
and
Yes, we
how
did-
your health and fitness can play
Well,
into
so
that.
that's like kind of, we don't know if it worked or not, or I think it definitely played a contributing factor. But we like took a very holistic approach going because we were about to start another round of IVF. So
Yeah.
we were going to do another retrieval and do all that sort of stuff. And we took a very holistic approach to it the last couple of months. So like we cut out plastic Tupperware. We didn't heat it. Like it was we switched to all glass. My wife started getting acupuncture.
like anything out there that they said could help
Yeah.
or detract, you guys were doing it.
Yeah, and so like we both started taking a multivitamin, all of these different things, and something obviously worked.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely like a big topic. But we dealt with that again, like you said. It was just like fitness just became more of my outlet. But
Yeah.
I didn't take the whole thing seriously. Right, I was just working out. I was eating whatever I want, drinking whatever I want, doing it, whatever. And so. Yeah, so I've turned a corner in the last probably like 6 months or so that has been really, really awesome. So
Yeah.
I'm like, excited to continue to like track my food, like track my workouts and do all that sort of stuff.
See the results, right?
See where it goes.
Yeah.
For sure.
And it becomes like almost addicting, huh?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's I wrote this down. We'll talk about it, but I heard it in a podcast that I listened to when I drove home this weekend, right? And it's like specifically with weight loss and stuff like that, right? Like when you get to your goal weight, what happens?
Yeah.
Right? Like do you just go back to what you were doing, or like is this just how I'm gonna live my life now? You know, like is that how you're gonna? Are you going to take these healthy habits that you've had and just continue to do them, and maybe adjust here and there, or are you just going to go back to eating cheeseburgers and
having 6 beer Saturdays?
Yeah.
I mean, you can have a few of those.
Yeah, everything in moderation, including moderation. But that's me. I think I covered everything.
Yeah, you did.
I think I got all my notes covered.
I'm glad that you shared your story, Dan.
Well,
I did not know a lot of that about
Where
you.
did you meet Chelsea at, though? You didn't cover that.
I met Chelsea here. We met on Bumble.
Let's go.
Yeah. So she was in grad school at ODU. She's a speech therapist, so she owns a practice down the street. But she's a speech therapist, so she was getting her to be a speech therapist. You have to get your master's, right? So she was getting her master's here. I was working at the shipyard, we went on a couple dates and things went. We were engaged like a year after we met, pretty much, and then married a year after that. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, she's awesome.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And then along the way, I got my master's too and stuff like that. So,
yeah. And where'd you get your master's at?
Purdue.
Yeah.
Let's go. That's great,
So then
Dan.
who do you root for in college football?
Ooh.
It depends who's on.
Because I know you have a partial
to Ohio State.
No,
or
to
My
Clemson.
friends give me
Because Chelsea went to
got her
Clemson.
undergrad from Clemson.
So he got married partially into Clemson.
Yeah. So
oh my gosh, how do you do
my
that?
friends give me so much crap for this. They text me on football, like football and basketball. They'll text me and say, "Who are you rooting for today?" And so obviously, like Clemson in the ACC.
Yeah, there you go. That's fair.
In the Big Ten, I would say Ohio State more than anything.
Yeah.
And my mom went to Kansas too, so Kansas basketball, like we're huge on Kansas basketball.
Yeah.
So I mean, whoever,
So you don't really have a
doing the
huge.
best,
That's my team.
I would consider Ohio State my team.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I feel like
think-
you kind of have to.
Yeah,
You got to give it to your
Ohio
dad.
State and
you know?
Clemson. Ohio State and Clemson.
Yeah.
It's so easy to be an Ohio State fan because they're like always good.
Yeah.
Every now and then they're not, but it's so easy.
Yeah.
And for a while there, it was easy to be a Clemson fan too.
I was going to say, yeah.
They've had a
Clemson's
rough.
not-
Yeah, they're still
all better
good,
than
but
Alabama fans.
we're gonna get some hate for that. You know, there's an Alabama fan.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
Roll Tide.
It's okay. It's okay.
Roll Tide.
We'll just say that it was Dan, not us, right, Chris?
Yeah. It wasn't. It
He's
wasn't
not a
me.
representation of our beliefs in this podcast.
I cannot.
Oh boy. All right, man. Well, you had a pretty good journey to get here.
Yeah, that's my
And
story.
I
It's
like
not
your
over
reasoning
by any
and
means,
kind of what
but,
drove you. You always look back to what like caused you that
that's-
strife to say, I don't
for
ever
real, like
want to
writing
do that
this out,
again.
I was like, I almost like got goosebumps a little bit thinking about it because like that's still my motivation.
Yeah.
Like that happened. I graduated 8 years ago last week, or 10 days ago,
Mm-hmm.
and that is still my motivation.
That's
Like,
crazy, man.
I do not want to let. It's really like I don't want to let anybody down like that ever again because like I felt like I let the entire world down.
So
and
were
that
you
happened.
not working out at all back then?
No, I mean, I was working out. I just wasn't doing the things that I like. If I knew half of the things that I knew about nutrition now, like back then,
Such a big
I
part of
would
the puzzle.
have been so much of a different athlete.
Yeah.
Or like even the fitness stuff, right? Like completely different athlete. I really wish, like, obviously hindsight's 2020, but like I had the opportunity to start CrossFit back when I took that year off of college. And I didn't start it. Like I could have started it, and I didn't.
You know,
But,
I'm
like,
curious because, like, in football, right? Like, going to tech, like, football is like money, and it's I never like was close with any football players,
Yeah.
but I'm curious to know if they like implemented any kind of nutrition, or is it like just eat whatever you can,
No,
do
so,
whatever
like,
you can?
Depends on the school.
Yeah,
for
okay.
sure. I think like where in schools like that, where like the football program brings in a ridiculous amount of money every year,
Ridiculous, yeah.
like, and the margins of victory can be so small sometimes that they try to find any edge that they can.
Yeah.
So like you can look on YouTube and look on some of these bigger schools either have players that are doing like YouTube stuff or the actual school is putting it on. And I mean, they have full-time nutritionists. They track everything that these dudes eat.
That is wild.
Yeah, they do all of these different.
But that's
things.
your bigger schools.
Yeah.
You know,
it's like Texas.
That's fair. Yeah.
They're telling you exactly what to do for stretching, what your workout is, what you're eating for breakfast, what your shake is. Like you walk up and hit buttons on an iPad,
and
it's telling you,
And a lot of times they're collecting data on your workouts too. Like we were talking the other day about how we were watching this dude, this offensive lineman from Michigan, like hang clean 405 for reps.
Yeah.
But he has these like wires that are attached to his barbell.
To see the power output.
Yeah.
Oh, that is so
nerding out on
cool.
it.
Yeah.
to see how much force it's generating.
Yeah.
There are some things that, like, I think we might have touched on this before, is that the training they're doing for sports is changing.
Yes.
Like you would have never saw somebody squat below parallel back in the day,
You know, Colby was telling me that too the other day. He's like, it's just for strength output.
They used to
They used
to tell you to put your feet together like you're skiing down a
your
mountain.
knees shouldn't go over your toes, kind of thing.
And you didn't see people doing power cleans. And if you think about football and many other sports, like the power output for 1 second, like an offensive lineman to drive, like that quick burst. You know, you got 5 seconds or less of work to do, and if you train for that, so I think some of that, like, they're not calling it CrossFit, but we call it functional fitness or HIIT training.
Yeah.
They're starting to implement that
or
more.
like power, like the guy who started CrossFit football, John Wellborn, I think is his name. He now has CrossFit football. Obviously went away, but he has this this program called Power Athlete, right? Because he was an NFL football player, right? And so he implements a lot of those things into his training style. It's super interesting.
Helping players reach different goals and getting better. So
Yeah.
All right. Well, we got your background. I say,
that's me.
Let's take a quick break, and then we'll get into the top. All right, we're back after our snack fest.
Yeah, I ate a little too much.
You'll be all right.
Story of my life.
Just make sure you chew some gum before you start coaching later. You don't want to get up too close to somebody. Yeah. I wonder that sometimes if I panic. Did I brush my teeth?
The other day, I was eating like a bowl from Meza, and a guy was at the back of the gym. He goes, "Are you eating onions?" And I was like, "Yes." He goes, "I can smell them all the way back here." I'm like, "Oh God!" I'm like, "Well, don't get close to me then. I'm still gonna eat them." I'm just letting you know.
Yep, that's awesome. All right, so let's get into this main topic here. After we've heard Dan's awesome story, thanks for telling us all that, man.
I know,
that was
I love
cool.
that, Dan.
I knew a lot about you, but I feel I learned a few more things too. So that's cool. So let's talk about this topic. So you're doing CrossFit for a couple years, and you see a lot of people get a lot of PRs in their clean and jerk, snatch, deadlift, whatever, and then they start hitting that wall. You know, I think can be a lot of causes to that. I think let's break it down by movements. Let's talk about some of the lifts first. So
yeah, I think the lifts are probably, and you guys can obviously, we're all going to chime in. The lifts are the easiest things to PR on at first, right? Because like if you've never done them before, when you pick up an empty barbell, that's a PR. And even if you move like crap, the first few months, you're still probably moving more weight progressively. And then you start to really get into the technique, and it's like, holy crap, I'm starting to move massive weight. I can speak for like myself personally. My form took a while to come on a lot of the lifts. Not like your standard lifts like back squat, pressing, deadlifting. I always was pretty good at that. But the Olympic lifts especially, once my form got better, I started lifting more weight. Mm-hmm. And then it was like I had a mental block for, you get to a number and you're like, I just want X, Y, and Z. I just want 115. And I could not get past 115. The second I got past 115, my snatch went up by like 25 pounds. And then I hit my next roadblock. And it's like a lot of people, I think once you get the technique down and you just get that movement pattern over and over and over again, I think it ends up being more mental than anything.
Well, so was that first thing, was it a mental block or was it a technique thing?
I think, like thinking back on it, it was definitely a mental block. I mean, especially, and two, when I got to like 135 pound snatch, like I hit 130 and got under 135 probably 25 times, like over the course of 6 months. Mm-hmm. But for some reason, like I was just scared. And the day that I got over 135, I hit 145. Like I was just like, okay, I'm not scared anymore to get under the bar. Maybe that's the reason why. Obviously with good technique, like I felt better and I still was putting in the reps. But it definitely just psyched me out. Like a lot of people will PR when they don't know what's on the bar. I use that trick on myself a lot sometimes.
I've done that a lot.
Yeah, because you're not thinking
Dan
about it.
did it to me the other day on back squat.
Yeah.
I didn't even know.
Turn around.
He did. He's like, just walk away for a minute.
Yeah, because you were gonna put 5 pounds on. I'm like,
why are you wasting our time right now,
Go sit
Chris?
down, Chris.
He literally was like, go sit down for a minute.
Yeah.
But I think it kind of helps mental wise, like not knowing what's on the bar. And I tell a lot of people this, and I need to take my own advice, but like, it's gonna be heavy, right? Like,
That's the idea.
Yeah, like we're lifting heavy stuff. Like, treat it that way. A lot of times we'll get up to a PR and we just like we freak out. We don't pull as well. We don't use our legs, whatever the reason may be. And it's like, it's gonna feel heavy in your hands. You're lifting 200 pounds. Like, that's not normal for the average person. So like, put some respect on it and treat it like it's heavy.
And be a dog.
Yeah, be a dog.
Absolute dog.
That's going to be like the mantra of today's episode.
Yeah.
Just be a dog.
Yeah, well, so I had a very similar story, like, happen with my snatch as well.
Yeah.
Where, like, I was stuck at 215 for years. Just like the first contributing factor is I did 0 Olympic lifting cycles, right?
Oh, good point, Dan.
So I'll get into that in just a second, right? And so, like, I was just, if we snatched during a workout, or we like did a strength session that was snatch, that was the only snatching and snatch work that I was doing, right? And so, and then one day I came in and I hit 225, and then I hit 235.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And just like out of the blue, but that's like the mental aspect of it is definitely one portion of it, but then there's also the flip side of the coin is like, are you doing all of the accessory stuff, the extra work to get better at those things, right? Or
Say it again for the people in the back.
Or are you just coming in and doing Metcons and expecting these things to happen, right?
Right.
Because when you really get down to the nitty gritty of like, hey, I want to get better. I want to add 5, 10, 15 pounds to my snatch. That's already really good. Like,
yes.
let's take a look in the mirror for a second and say, hey, how many people on earth can snatch 200 pounds, can snatch whatever?
Thank you.
Not very many.
Yeah.
So, you know, like when you're looking at those things, are you doing, like, it takes a lot to make that little percentage, like,
right. Especially
increase.
when you're at your, we'll say peak, right? Like let's just say you've narrowed down the technique, you've been doing it for a while, and you really are lifting your 100%. It's not going to be an over the night thing to go to 105%. I think people forget that.
Yeah, and all those jumps that you do every time are going to get smaller and smaller.
Yes.
And you talk about the extra work. Like, he's off cycle now because of being in the fire academy. But when my son was training
he's a great
with
example.
East Coast Gold, like, he would be out in the garage or at the gym for like 2 hours, and half of that was warming up, all these different accessory works, the mobility. Like, that kid's done more just snatch pulls and clean pulls and just all these different snatch deadlifts, all this extra stuff that the average CrossFitter is not going to do because you do your hour, and that's great. Come and do your hour and leave, but there's only so much you can fit in a class.
Yeah.
I think last week we did snatch pulls, and that's the first time I've done snatch pulls in
I
probably
love
5
me
years.
some snatch pulls.
Yeah.
And like something I'm always gonna get, and Bridget's my wad wife. I love her, and I'm gonna give her this, like, and Roberto, her husband. We were talking one day about like strict handstand push-ups, and we were both whining. Like, let's be honest, we were whining about why we're not good at them. And Rob, as like calm and as cool and collected as he always is, was like, well, how often do you work on them? And we were like, once a month.
He just mic dropped you.
Yeah, I was like, well, he makes a great point.
I'm going to look at the camera when I say this. If you have goals that are very specific and you just come into the gym and do the workout expecting to meet those goals and don't do the stuff to actually move forward towards those goals, you're never going to meet your goals.
You're not going to meet them.
Sorry, I know that sounds kind of harsh, but
it's the reality. And I think that's a great point, right? So like when we talk about roadblocks and we talk about being, you know, better, again, for people that have been in CrossFit for a while, if you're doing all the necessary things, like, what is your goal? Like, just like you said, you hadn't done an Olympic lifting cycle. My snatch and clean and jerk hasn't improved in the last 2 years, but I have not done a single Olympic lifting cycle because relative to my goals, my strength doesn't need to improve per se.
That's what I was going to ask you was, does it need to improve?
Right, so like
No.
it's not great, but it's, you know, I can hold my own with the field, but my gymnastics capacity is where like I really struggle. So obviously knowing your goals and what you're reasonably trying to achieve, and I mean like you got to go into the depths of your soul for this one, right? Because like we said it on the first podcast, most people come into CrossFit because they want to look good. They want to feel like they have a nice physique, and their physique shows how hard they've worked. If that is your main goal, maybe we're not going to get you from a 135 snatch to a 165 snatch. That's probably not necessary. Let's pick some goals and some things that are relative to what you're hoping to get out of the sport.
Yeah, and like don't measure yourself just on your lifts, right? Like,
thank you.
Like, if you continue to show up, things are going to happen, right? Things obviously, like we said, are going to slow down at the more you do it, right?
Yes.
But other things are going to happen that you can measure success upon, right? Don't just measure your success on just being able to hit more weight on a lift.
Or just being able to do something. Like, you know, whatever that elusive thing is for you.
Yeah, exactly. Because again, like I spoke about in the first piece, right? What happens when you get there? Have you
won? That's
like,
it, I'm going home.
Do you want to do that again? Are you going to do all of the stuff that's required for you to do it again? Or
like there's always something else around the corner.
Yeah,
exactly.
Again, and like you said, like you need to look in the mirror and be honest with yourself about what your goals are, right? Like for me, I told you this last week. I think I'm sure I've told you too. Like my goal with fitness is to watch my grandkids grow up.
Yep.
Like,
and that's 100%. In your soul. That's in your heart. That's like what I am here every day for.
Yeah, that is why I'm here. That's why I'm tracking my macros. That's why I'm doing everything. And could I do better at stuff? Yeah, absolutely. But like that is the overarching thing of why I'm showing up here. If I PR my snatch, if I PR my clean and jerk, whatever, that's just like
icing on the cake.
Yeah. You know, like that's just the cherry on top, because I am competitive. Obviously, I played football in college, right? Like I am competitive. I don't show it that often, but I am. And so like I like lifting weights. I like doing all of those different things. I like being up on the leaderboard, right? But like at the end of the day, that's just like
that doesn't make you who you are.
Boost that just like you walk out the door and you're like, all right, whatever.
Yeah.
See, I think people need to give yourself a break. Like, stop.
I agree with that too.
Relax, right? Like you're not going to learn everything. So this was my struggle to compare it to was bar muscle ups, right? Like I'd be in the gym, try them, and over the course of half hour, I'd finally get one miraculously, right?
Like,
I'd be like, yeah, I got
Let's
it.
Go.
Right? But because I was scared to fail, kept me from trying them again the next day or a couple days, right? And I went through this for a couple months, and finally, I don't know where the epiphany came from, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to dominate these. I got to get these, right? My goal is going to be that I can walk in the gym and just stone cold, boom, always be able to pop one up, right? And so all I did was
shoulder a little bit.
Exactly. To warm up, and I'm just saying, you know, that was my thought to it. And
don't warm up.
If you want to just leap over a fence, you're running from some an active shooter, right? Which happened down the road today. So anyway, and all I did is I started researching some different techniques, because there are different ideas of how to do your bar muscle ups, right?
And what works best for you.
I found something that worked for me was the knees up technique, right? And
me too, brother.
So what I did was I just drilled that to the point where all of a sudden, within a couple days of trying that technique, it clicked for me. And I was like, oh. And then what I did is for weeks, I would do bar muscle ups at least 3 days a week. Just awesome. Knock a few out, even if it was one at a time.
One or two,
kind of like you've been doing that lately, right? And I just did it to where it's became a repetitive thing, right?
Right.
And I know it worked because when I had my shoulder surgery, 5 months to the day from surgery to a bar muscle up in 5 months, because I created that muscle memory
pattern,
and I just beat it. Yeah, dog. I just beat it into me, right? Because it wasn't an easy thing for me to do. Now, like did them yesterday in the workout.
And I think it's important to note, and this is something I have such a hard time with our athletes about, and you guys can tell me your opinions, right? As a coach, you want to see people work on the things that they want to work on. But I had someone ask me the other night, should I work on X, Y, and Z in the workout? And I was like, no. Number one, your movement pattern fresh isn't good. And again, that might be harsh, but how do you think your movement pattern is going to be fatigued? So it's a great point that you made about, I came in, I did a few, a 3, whatever that number worked up from 1 at a time to 2 at a time to 10 in a session. But you did it outside of a class and outside of this fatigue state so that you could build the good muscle patterns. I really, really have to fight people sometimes. I'm like, I want you to work on this too. I want you to get this so bad. Like, that's my hope, right? But you need to pick the opportunity that's going to give you the best success. And I don't think this is going to be that tonight.
Yep.
People struggle with that, right? Because they don't want to spend the extra time. They don't want to do all the things, but they have the time right now in this hour. Not saying that it's not possible if you just come in for the hour, but it's going to take you significantly longer if you only do that.
And you don't have to spend an extra hour in the gym every time you
10-minute
come.
EMOM.
Yeah.
I love an EMOM.
Yeah, I do that all the time.
So
that's like my go-to. Is
So like if you struggle with pull-ups, right? I've told people this, and I forget how we came across it, but it was when Paige and Peyton were both early in CrossFit. Paige wanted a bigger capacity of pull-ups. So I said, do a 10-minute EMOM. She could do like 1 or 2 strict, right? I said, do 1 strict pull-up every minute on the minute for 10 minutes.
Next week, make it 2.
And then from there, then she just kept alternating that EMOM, started adding volume.
Yes.
And sometimes she'd shorten it to 8 minutes. Sometimes she'd make it longer. And I would just hear the barbell in the garage creaking as she'd be out there doing it. And my son did the same thing. And I've told people in here to do the same thing. And there's a few of them that have stuck to it. And they tell me, they pull me aside, and hey, it's working. I'm getting better. Like I'm down to this band on a strict pull-up, right?
Yes.
And I tell them too. I encourage. I said do strict pull-ups,
Please,
right? Because if you can do a capacity of strict pull-ups, you can build into a C-kip. You can build into butterfly.
Yeah.
But you got to find like what's my ultimate goal, like we were saying, and how do I get there, right? And then what am I going to do to get there?
And measuring. Like, this is another thing I really struggle with people. I'm like, you can't measure your capacity in a workout. Like, every workout is different. Unless you're doing the same workout every 2 months, we'll say. It's different fatigue, different stimulus, different muscle groups used.
Yeah,
so in
different
EMOM,
everything leading up to it.
what you did before. Even like your day-to-day life is different.
Yeah.
So the most measurable way is to do EMOMs. Like, okay, I was telling someone, because we did, I think it was last week, the 30 ring muscle ups for time. And, like 5 people did ring muscle ups, right?
Shout out Sam getting 15 in a row.
I know. That was a goal for him this year. So he already crushed his freaking goal.
Take it to 20.
I will be unimpressed until I see. But like a lot of people are like, what do I do? And I'm like, look, let's do an EMOM, right? Of whatever pulling gymnastics you're working on. And if you go from 2 pull-ups every minute on the minute right now to 4 pull-ups every minute on the minute, you've literally doubled what you're trying to work on. Like that is a measurable and attainable goal that we can look at and see if we did the things that made a difference. And that's another thing that I really think gets people in their roadblocks is we're measuring off of some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Again, in Metcons, how do I feel that day? It didn't move good. Like, those aren't measurable, and everyone feels those same things at some point or another, but you can't justify your success on a feeling or not.
No.
Like, there needs to be like things that you can write down, and we also said this in the last podcast, like that you can control.
Yep.
Like, you physically can control the outcome.
Like you inherently, without meaning to, fixed one of my fears yesterday.
Really?
With that dumbbell.
Really?
So the dumbbell was RX Plus was used a 70.
Yeah.
And Melissa, being Melissa, she's like, you gonna use the 70? I'm like, hell no. I said, that thing sucks.
It's like,
so then I'm looking
weak.
at the 50, and I'm like, so I walk back to the annex, and I grab the 70. I'm like, whoop.
Like,
Whoop. I'm like,
I guess I'll do it.
that was a case where like I knew I would get less work done.
Yeah.
But I'm like, you know what? I need to do this.
Yeah.
It was a small number, relatively speaking.
And it was only 10. And then I was like, so she's like, oh, you're going to do it? I'm like, yeah. I said, but I'm not going to switch midair.
Got into it.
As soon as I started, I just switch in midair. And I was like,
wow.
Holy crap.
I'm actually doing
like,
it.
my old ass can do this.
Yeah. I mean, that was one thing I really liked. We've had this conversation. That was one thing I really liked about the last cycle was we did 30-pound wall balls, and we did a crap ton of them.
A ton of them.
And then you start doing, so like even little stuff like that, right? go out of your comfort zone a little bit in a safe manner.
Go
Go
agreed.
out of your comfort zone a little bit. Try something a little bit new. Take some risks here and there. And control the risks, right? Like, not like I'm gonna go swing from the bar and do something silly, but like controlled risks that you know that you can, in a 10-minute workout, you can maybe get a little bit more capacity out of, right? But try different things here and there, right? Maybe, I don't even know, there's a multitude of different things, right? And ask your coaches about it, but try something different that could pay dividends in a different area.
Yes.
Yeah, like one that works I've found for me is instead of, and it depends on the workout, but capacity-wise for wall balls, being a short guy, wall balls, right?
Yeah.
I've literally done,
I don't know what you're talking
instead
about.
of doing like, let's say doing the 20 and doing sets of 20, taking the 14 and do, I'm gonna do the 14-pound
Yeah.
ball and I go 50 unbroken.
Yeah.
So like mentally, you start to build like a capacity and that muscle movement. So I think you can take, when you feel like you're hitting a roadblock on something, you can kind of back off a little bit and scale and modify a little bit, but maybe do a better job of hitting that stimulus. Because what if the workout calls for, let's just say it's 50 wall balls and the goal is to go unbroken?
Okay.
Well, if you can't
Take
do
the weight
RX
down.
unbroken,
Yeah.
take the weight down and send it.
Yeah.
Let's see what
that's
happens.
a victory. So then that muscle, I think that muscle pattern and that brain, you're mentally, you're like, I can move up and down 50 times. Now I just have to suffer through the shoulder piece of
Yeah.
it, right? And over time, like you could do 100 wall balls a day at 14 pounds, as big a sets as you could for a year straight, right? And then you go pick up that 20-pound ball.
You're gonna be surprised.
You're going to be able to send it because you're so used to it, right?
Yeah.
Are you going to be able to do exactly as you could as the 14? Maybe, but even if not, I guarantee your capacity will increase.
So like I want to take this, and I'm just like making some notes as we do this, like some things that we can literally list out to send home with people of like what to do when you're hitting plateaus. And I think the first thing that we kind of breached on is like analyzing what your goals are.
Yeah, like look yourself in the mirror.
Yeah, like
and
we
say,
need to know
hey,
what your goal is. Otherwise, the rest of this doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep these
yeah.
little nuggets.
Yeah.
Definitely look yourself in the mirror and say, hey, what, and be honest with yourself, right? Like if you just and be honest with what is going on in your life too,
Yeah.
right? Because like
Yes.
for me, I get an hour here a day, and that's it. Usually, sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less, but just based upon what I have going on in my life,
Yep.
my wife and my son, that's the time I get here, and I have to make the most of it, right? But I know that means that I'm more than likely not going to be able to do accessory work, right? But that
Yeah.
means I have to put in extra work somewhere
Right.
else, right? With nutrition, or
That is a great point. Like picking up the slack in another area that you can control at this
yeah,
moment.
exactly. And so and those other things pay dividends in the long run too.
Yes.
But I think for sure that's the first step is like you need to be honest with yourself and say, hey, what really are my true goals? Like, it's hard sometimes to come in here and see Melissa working out with her team and these like absolute dogs.
I miss my
are
boys.
crushing it, right? Like they are the top 1% of 1% of human beings, right? And so it's hard to come in here. It's true. Like, no, for real. You think about it.
I know.
It's true, right? And so it's hard to come in here and be like, oh, I really want to be like that. But like, I
have multiple. Yeah, think about that, right? Like, I think sometimes people look at me too, and they're like, "Well, you're doing it," and I'm like, "I own a gym."
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I have things going on. I do a lot of stuff, but like, I have dedicated hours within these walls that I can do
sometimes
whatever.
twice a day.
Sometimes twice. Yeah, whatever I need to do to make that a reality.
Yeah, and so it's hard sometimes to come in here and see that and want to compare yourself to that. And so sometimes it took me a long time. I don't want to say it took me a long time, but like getting over that and just really being honest and truthful with yourself, I think is the biggest step to kind of get over, right? Because once you can be truthful and honest with yourself about what your goals are with as far as fitness goes, and really in life, like, you can start to develop a plan to number one, measure like how you're going to get there and how you're going to measure that success.
Yeah. And comparison's the thief of joy, right? Like, I think that's also something that.
That's quite the quote.
Yeah.
Take that in for a second.
Someone write that down. While we talk about community in here, I think that is also one of the biggest downfalls of the community, right? Is because most of us are coming in here, we're competitive, whether we, are super competitive or not is another story, but if your friends are all doing things and you're not doing it, or, you know, well, she got a PR and I'm doing all the same work, but I didn't get a PR. I think we do a lot of comparison between even our friends and our peers that really sets us up for failure. And your journey is not someone else's journey.
Yep.
And like, again, breaking it back down to that, what are your goals? And like, also, what have you done? You just made a good point. Like, of course I've smashed this. I have spent literally 12 hours every week working out for the last 6 months. You've spent 6 hours. Like, I've literally doubled the amount of work. So looking at that and being honest with yourself and understanding that this person may just have a little bit more time, or they may be doing the little things outside of the gym that you're not, and that's okay. Again, you have to find the balance of what your goals are in here and the life that you want to live, because at the end of the day, I mean, maybe on my tombstone they might write this, Melissa did CrossFit, but like, that's not what's going to be important about you or your life, for that matter. It's supposed to add joy to your life, not take away.
Yeah, exactly. And like, you are doing the hardest thing by coming in here every day.
Yep.
Yes,
Like,
yes.
everything else.
You made it.
Yeah,
so
congratulations.
Going back, this is going to sound harsh, but it's 100% accurate. I've done this before. So, like, going back to being, like, taking it easy on yourself a little bit, stand in here on a Friday afternoon and watch the people walk in next door.
Watching them walk in, the decent people at 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
And
watch
tell
them
me
walk
you don't
out.
feel a little bit better about yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know?
Or the
How about
or
this
the
one?
dialysis
That's what
center
I was
next
gonna
door.
say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's throwing no shade at those people.
No,
like,
not at
they're
all.
living
Not
their
at
life,
all.
and I don't.
And I hope they're
like, I
happy.
don't, yeah. But like, you are in here and you're making yourself better every single day.
Yep.
I love that.
And you know that I know.
Put that on the shirt.
Yeah.
Dang
Stay
it.
gritty.
Yeah, so that's kind of.
Gritty.
So I was gonna say, don't compare yourself, but you could compare yourself to the people with the make those decisions,
yes.
right? But when you're inside these walls, let's say you're back squatting, and we partner up a lot just because it's easier. If you're back squatting with somebody and, like, so let's say you kind of tap out because you've reached your max, but they haven't, don't be discouraged. Like, encourage that
Yes.
person.
Yes.
And if you're a little bit, you got a little bit of jealousy there, enjoy it. And then if all of a sudden, like, ask yourself, is this really what I want? Are you going to try another 2.5 pounds? It doesn't always have to be 10-pound plates.
No.
Yeah.
And decide, or am I going to go for it and fail? Like, I tell people a lot, like, it's great to PR,
Yes.
and then they'll try to go a little bit more and fail, and they'll be all
Disappointed.
mad. I'm like, no.
But they've already PR'd.
But,
In
yeah.
reality, that's how it should be. Like, your final
Yes.
attempt, and if it doesn't
Yes.
hit,
It's
that's
okay.
okay because
That's
you
like-
tried it.
That's
and
like
you
me-
already PR'd.
That's like me snatching last week. I PR'd my snatch and then missed the 10-pound jump that I
And you
did.
were upset.
And I
Yeah,
was
let me take a 10-pound jump
Yeah.
on top of
Look,
my
I don't-
100%.
Yeah, he kicked the barbell across the room.
Yes.
I've lifted for football for, I don't know, 10 years, right?
Yeah.
And I don't take 5-pound jumps. I take 10-pound jumps.
Yeah, well, you know
Yeah.
what? That's on you, Dan, at that point.
Yeah.
But I think that's another good thing to say, right? Like, if it makes the people at home happy to hear, I haven't PR'd a single lift in 2.5 years, all right? Like, granted, I'm sure people are like, well, you already lift more than me. That's, okay, well, I've worked up to that point.
Yeah.
But, like, do you think I'm discouraged because I haven't PR'd those lifts? Sometimes, yeah, like, my feelings get to me. I'm like, man, I want to be lifting more like X, Y, and Z. I want to be doing this. But again, just like we said a few minutes ago, I haven't done a strength cycle. That's not been my focus. But there are so many other things that I can look at in my lifts. And shout out to my coach, Tristan, for talking me off a ledge weekly, because I was super mad about some clean and jerks the other day. Not super heavy, 80% maybe of my 1-rep clean and jerk, but I was like, they just felt bad. And I sent him the videos, and he's like, you should be super proud because your form is impeccable. Like, even to 6, 7, 8 weeks ago, like, the difference in my form, that is a measurable success for me. Like, if I'm lifting better in the technique and the form, no, I didn't PR. Yes, that's super fun. But that's still a really good win that we should recognize and be proud of ourselves for. Like, when I see people in here and they look like an absolute dog pooping, and then I see somebody come in and lift the same weight, 6 months later, and their form looks great, I'm like, I could cry. Like, that's more important to me almost than, like, PRing by 20 pounds. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, so you could say, you could look at when you're not hitting a PR or something's not working, it might be time to do some video, Ask a coach, hey, can you watch me for a
Yes.
minute? Because maybe that coach is on the other side of the room. Because there's probably a technique breakdown, especially if you're fatigued, because that's when you
That's when
break
we're
down,
PRing,
right?
yeah, mhm.
And maybe you have an early pull in your snatch. Maybe you're not actually getting under the bar and pulling yourself under, and you're just kind of riding it down. So there's those little technique pieces, because snatch and clean and jerk, they're super technical, but people don't always realize how technical they are. All these little things, right?
Minute
Yeah, again,
things.
it goes back to like, are you doing the little things?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, like the little things add up to be big things.
Yes, they do.
And
Yes.
if you're not doing the little
And
things,
that's why I tell people that's why it's in the Olympics.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
it's that technical.
yes.
And it's a huge thing. And for the short time Paige competed in Ollie, she thought she was good at clean and jerk and snatch. And then she went over there, and Phil, shout out to Phil Sabatini, awesome freaking Olympic coach.
Yes.
And a monster, absolute
Unit.
Yeah. Paige is like, man, there's a lot that I suck at. I'm like,
Yeah.
huh? She goes, and she started naming like all these things she needs to work on. And you just don't realize how technical it is. All these little things you can do better at. So I think you got to take each thing you're trying to get better at and give yourself a break. And then
I
ask
agree.
yourself, and the other thing, whiff them. What's in it for me? Like, if I can do this, what is it actually doing for me? Is it going to make my
how
life
does that
better
relate
every
back to my
day?
my overarching?
Yeah.
My overarching, yeah.
And then link that to why did I originally walk in here? And it changes because you start liking CrossFit.
You're
You want to
growing
be
a
able to
little
do
bit.
handstand walks and do this and do that. And then I think people too often get stuck on the whole, well, I want to RX to workout. Who cares?
Who cares?
Yeah.
I don't RX every workout.
Sometimes I RX, sometimes I
Yeah.
don't. Yesterday I did RX plus. Like, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Like that's why my common question, especially to newer athletes or people that maybe are trying something new, when I'm giving them a fist bump at the end of class, is, did you get a good workout?
Yeah.
Because that's the most important thing. Did you get a good workout?
Yeah.
Did you get something out of this? And that ultimate thing is you're walking out the door, going home or going to work, going, okay, I got my workout done. That was
'cause
awesome.
Regardless
Yeah.
if you show up, you're going to get better.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you show
Regardless.
up and do the workout, you're going to get better.
I mean,
Yes.
we've had people come in like, it's happened a few times. Somebody comes in, oh, this is hurting, that hurting, and they give it a go. And at a certain point, they're like, man, my back's just hurting too much. All right, well, you know
Change
what? Why
it.
don't you just jump on the bike?
Yeah.
And
Just
ride the
sweat.
bike while everybody does the Metcon and just
Yes.
cheer them on.
Yeah.
And they're like, really? Yeah, just ride the bike. It's
Yeah.
it's not the end of
it doesn't need to be rocket
missing
science.
this
No.
one Metcon
You're
is not going to
No.
like determine whether you
Setting
have a
it back
six pack or
20
not.
years.
Yeah, right.
No.
Yeah, and you're not going to the CrossFit Games tomorrow.
Yes,
So don't
yes.
sweat it.
Yeah.
Just step back and give yourself a break. So, yeah, I think I really like your point about the goals though too. But you could take the what's in it for me and the goals.
Yeah.
And like, okay, if I really want it, how am I going to get there?
Yeah.
What am I going to do to get there?
Am I doing
And-
the little things?
Yeah, and do I really have it in my heart to say, yeah, I really want to do that, right? Which leads me into do not compare yourself to anybody else in here,
Please don't.
right? Especially if you look at somebody and say, well, they're the same size as me, I should be able to do that. No.
No, you're not
'Cause
necessarily.
You just don't know.
Your life is totally different. That's also something that I struggle with people is like, well, I'm coming in, I didn't PR today, and I don't do this, I didn't do that. I'm like, well, what have you eaten today?
Yeah.
What have you done today?
How much sleep did you get last
How
night?
much sleep did you get?
How
How
Well,
much sleep have you gotten this last week?
Yeah.
Yes, like there is a million factors that play into feeling our best on the day that it matters most. And quite frankly, if we're not, I don't want to say micromanaging, if we're not narrowing those details down long before, it might not matter at all. Like
Yeah.
you might not even have a shot at PRing because so many other things that play a role into that are just not dialed in yet.
Yeah.
And again, that's okay.
Yeah, I
it's
mean-
not a huge ordeal.
I can't tell you how many times I've like joked around and said I'm not going to PR this unless the stars align.
Yeah.
And like it's literally like it's literally the stars aligning where
Yeah.
I mean like, and that hardly ever happens, right? And I'm at the point now where you're at, where I mean I PR'd this last time, but I've been working up to this for 6 months. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
you've been
Like,
doing the things.
I've been putting in the work, and it's like all of those little things will start to pay off. And I'm starting to see that now. And obviously, like I want to go farther. I want to do. There's more that I want to accomplish. But again, it all goes back to that overarching goal. But what I was going to say is going back to your piece about how you said you haven't PR'd anything in 2 years, right? But obviously, you've gotten fitter. And
Yeah.
so I think
Yes.
the number, like obviously, we said the number one thing, right, was like what is your overarching goal, right? I think the number 2 thing should be, how are you measuring your goals?
Oh, I love it, Dan. I love
So
it.
how are you measuring your level of success? Because obviously you've been successful and you haven't PR'd any lifts. I'm sure you felt successful, right?
Yeah.
And so
It's a waste.
How are you measuring your goals?
How are you measuring that above goal? Yeah.
Yeah, like what lens are you looking at success through? Right? Like, are you looking at success through you being able to get PRs, or are you looking at like success through the lens of like, I am a fitter person?
Yeah.
You know, because I think how you look at success and what lens you look at it through, and how you measure that is huge on kind of like looking at, well, maybe I'm not actually on a plateau. Like, just because I haven't PR'd doesn't mean I'm not getting better. Yeah,
right?
Because you obviously gotten better.
About like the muscle ups, right? Like you're talking about, you come in and we literally said this in the last podcast, and it's always those movements that seem like so far out of reach for people, and they're like, oh, I just want to be better at this, or I want to do a muscle up, or I want to blah blah blah. But like, thinking about semifinals, and I literally, in the last podcast, I was like, yeah, Sam sent me a video this morning of me doing 4 bar muscle ups, and I chicken winged every bar muscle up. Like, now I've come in and I can do a bar muscle up cold with next to perfect form, and even when I'm fatigued, my form doesn't break down. That doesn't, again, like, maybe that's not a PR, I didn't learn the muscle up again, but I'm super proud of the fact that my muscle ups look good and stay technical, even fatigued. That's a success to me.
Which is, in turn, increased your capacity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's,
and
that's a great point.
And to bring this down a level, right, like, remove muscle up and put any movement in there.
Any movement.
Yeah.
Any movement, right? Because the muscle up is a very high level movement, and it's not attainable for some people, and that's totally fine,
That's
right?
fine,
It doesn't
yep.
need to be, right? Because it is a higher risk movement. And obviously, it can
Like
be,
maybe you have a shoulder injury that you will just can't.
Yes.
Maybe you want to do push-ups. Maybe you couldn't do push-ups, or you had to do knee push-ups before, right? Or something along those, or banded push-ups, or something like that. And now you can do a bunch of push-ups, right? Or maybe it's squats, right? And you can lift those stupid blue jugs off of the couch that CrossFit put us on, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, maybe you can do that now.
Yeah.
You know, like, again, how are you measuring it? But
Maybe you picked up your kid and your back didn't hurt.
Yeah.
Like, that's a real thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, this should be life applicable as well. Like, granted, all the goals in the gym matter, yes, but like, I had someone come in the other day and they were like, I played with my kid in the backyard and I didn't get tired before they got tired. And I'm like,
That's awesome.
I am so happy for you. That's a success in my mind. Like, who gives a crap how many pounds you can back squat?
Yeah.
Like, no one cares at the end of the day.
So you bring up the good point about measuring, right? I think what's important, if you got to take notes, you should write down, and it doesn't have to be on
Putting that as a sub bullet.
It doesn't have to be in the app, but you could have a little logbook, and as soon as you get in the car, as soon as you're done, as soon as you recovered from the workout, is take some notes.
How did I feel?
Yeah, like, hey, did the workout was this? Let's say it was 3 rounds, and every time I had to do 20 wall balls. The wall balls were good until round 3.
Oh, I love that.
And then next time maybe it's like, hey, wall balls were great.
To
I went
round 5.
unbroken the whole time.
Yes.
But you got to take some notes, because you're not going to remember what you did last time, right?
No.
So if you can take those measurements and go, man, I was able to do X amount of pull-ups or X amount of push-ups. Like, say push-ups were in the workout, and like, say you're doing Cindy and you're halfway through before you have to put your knees on the floor to do push-ups.
That's a win.
But maybe last time you had to do knee push-ups the entire time. But now halfway through is until I broke. And then over time, and unfortunately we don't keep doing those same benchmark workouts, but still, you could take that and then do it yourself, or do a bunch of push-ups and see how many you can do.
Yeah.
Do a test yourself a little bit.
I do it every year for the PRT.
And I used to
have
not anymore. Not anymore.
Is it rowing?
It's a row.
Shut up. That's not even fair, Dan.
It's a 2,000 meter row.
Hey,
Let me eat.
And funny story, they were asking for volunteers to test in different age groups.
Yes.
And I went and did the test.
didn't?
Yeah,
That's
everybody was
terrible.
mad that I did it. They're like, you messed it up for everybody.
not fair.
Hey,
Yeah.
you should have been doing CrossFit, Brian.
Yeah, sorry.
So, but I think it's important. Like, you got to take notes, and that way you have something to reflect back on.
And with even breaking it down to like rowing, right? Like, monostructural movements, I feel like people really struggle on. If you held a 2:10 pace on your 2K row, and this time you held a 2:08, even if it's freaking 209. That is literally
Improvement.
1 second faster for every 500 meters that you rode. That is a big deal. Like, there's just so many things that can be mitigated with notes.
So something real quick on comparison is that's where sometimes I think it's okay to compare, right? And I'll give you a good example. For a short guy, I can row good, right?
Yeah.
But I've worked at it. I did a lot of research. So if Dan and I are working out together,
I'm 6'3", by the way.
Right.
For those asking.
5'8" on a good day with low gravity with shoes on. So with that being said, if we're doing a workout that has rowing,
and you're trying to keep up with
and
Dan,
if I get off at the same time or right after him,
that's a great
what
goal.
it tells me is like, okay,
we did that on Jackie. That was on Jackie, right?
Yeah.
we
Yes.
both got off at the same time. I was like, okay, good, because we both had a plan to pace, right? So what that does for me is it tells me, okay, I'm outputting where I know I actually can, and it just gives me a marker. Much like in workouts, like I will use other people as like a rabbit, and one is a dog chasing me, and I know that depending on the workout, is if this person's not getting too far ahead and that person's behind me, I'm outputting where I should be, right? Like if it's a run, because I don't run very often because I'm not supposed to, but if I was running, I'm not going to compare myself to our high-speed, go-fast runners in here. That would be stupid.
Because then you're going to be like measuring a fish on how it climbs a tree.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would be better off to scale that down, or if I use the bike, I'm trying to finish the equivalent distance on the bike the same time that person that's actually good at running, I'm trying to get off at the same time because I've eliminated the running barrier and I'm biking instead, so I should be able to output more, right?
Right.
So I think it's okay to compare if you're comparing the right things that are relative to what you're doing.
Agreed.
Now, I'm not going to compare myself doing handstand walks with Dan because it's not. It's
he's
not
a ninja.
That's a stupid idea, right?
Yeah.
Like so, and there's probably things he's not going to compare himself to me. It's dumb. But you can use people to say, okay, if I'm within a certain distance, or if you're scaling, even if you scale or modify down a little bit, you should still be on that person's pace.
Yes,
right?
And that's something that I talk about a lot, especially with the ladies. Guys probably just don't talk to me as much. I don't know. But we have a good group of like competitive ladies, I feel like, right? And I'm like, also, stop. When you compare yourself to someone relative. And I think it's a good idea to have someone like, okay, if I can hold on to ring muscle ups even anywhere close to Sam, I'm super proud of my effort because he's a lot better at ring muscle ups than me. However, I'm also not going to tell someone to compare themselves to someone who A, may be scaling, or B, may be cutting reps, and they're not, telling anyone that, right? Like, you have to be...
You know who you are.
We're coming for you. But, like, I have to guide people and say, like, look, maybe that's not the best person to chase, and I'm not gonna offend them or downplay them or whatever. I'm like, let's take our focus over here. Let's focus on this person to chase, and here's why: they're more comparable to you in these things. They've got you beat in these things, and you've got them beat in these things. So you know that, like, for instance, Courtney and Hannah. Courtney's a great runner. If you can keep up with Courtney running, like, that's really good. So I'm like, Hannah, keep up with Courtney on the run. Hannah's doing a lot better on pull-ups. She's got butterfly. I'm like, Court, if you can hang in there with her on the pull-ups, then you know you're doing something, like, way better than when you started. Small things like that. And I think that matters as far as, like, not getting defeated every day that you come in here and knowing who to use as your guide, which, again, we'll say it a bunch, you should talk to a coach about your goals and about, like, what you should do in the plan for the workout. And they can give you an unbiased opinion, knowing you and knowing what you want while you're in these four walls.
Well, and, like, going back to the last podcast, right, I think that will eventually, hopefully, as you meet the goals for the gym, right, and, like, each one of the coaches are kind of assigned a group of people to focus on their goals and everything like that, right? That's something that you want to strive for at the gym, it sounds like.
And it'll be accountability, number one, for everyone that does have goals that they care about. And then number two, like, just get us all involved in, like, just like you said, like, most of us are coaches, again, not because it pays well, but because we want to see people succeed and we enjoy people breaking through barriers. And we want the best for them in their lives.
Yeah, I mean, you guys know, I said my story already. That's why I'm
that's
coaching.
your focus of coaching. Yeah. And I think that's most of the hearts of the people that work with us. So having that alliance, I think, would be great for people.
Yeah. And the flip side of the coin too, going back to what you were talking about like how are we measuring our goals, right? The flip side of the coin too is you have to be okay having bad days.
Oh my
You know,
goodness,
like,
yes.
There's sometimes, again, you just have to let it go, right? There's
Yes.
days where I've come in here and I've worked out like absolute crap. I know it. I know, like, normally I can
feel
come in,
it.
Yeah, like
My heart
normally I can
hurts.
come in here and do a solid set of pull-ups or a solid set of push-ups or wall balls.
And I'm like, you all right, dude?
yeah. I'm like,
Shut up, Chris.
Yeah, leave me. Let me die in the corner.
yeah, but you have to be okay having those bad days, right?
Yes.
Because those bad days are going to help you just as much. Because guess what? You showed up.
We
right?
should talk about the rule of thirds, right? Like somebody that was in the Olympics, I forget what sport she was in, whatever, right? But she's like, I've just had really bad days recently. And I was telling someone this about myself. Like, I feel awful the last week. Like, nothing feels good. I feel like I have to work so much harder to do the things that I normally do. But I have to, like, ground myself and remind myself that in any journey, and this is probably in life too, right? Like, whatever it is, a third of your days are going to be the best days you've ever had, like superior days in here where you're like, I could run through a brick wall and nothing's going to stop me.
Oh, yeah.
And then there are a third of days where you're like, it was tough. Like, I'm okay. Like, didn't do great, but didn't do terrible. And then there's a third of days where you're like, that was absolute horse crap. And I feel awful. I moved awful and nothing was going well. If you're that person, that's okay. That's part of the journey. That's gonna be.
Nobody's perfect.
No, and I don't care
And
what these
you
elites
can't hold
say on their
your-
Instagram. They don't feel great every day. I have literally. I'm gonna make a post about this specifically because I've been feeling like crap too, of like all the fails I have had in the last 6 weeks. And like, cool, I'm posting my 2 great moments, but this is all of the times that those 2 great moments were succumbed by failures. And not failures in a bad way, failures in a learning experience
Yeah,
way.
exactly. As long as you're looking at it again through the lens, what lens are you looking at it through,
Yeah.
right? Like, if you were looking at it, if I looked at all of the crappy things that happened to me over the years through the lens of like feeling sorry for myself, right?
Ooh, yes.
Right, like I for sure wouldn't be here. I don't know where I would be, right? I
Yeah.
definitely wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be as successful as I am, and like sometimes you just have to keep going, right? But if you look at it through number 1, taking ownership, and number 2, as a learning experience and taking it as kind of like, hey, what can I learn from this experience? You can grow as a human being, but as an athlete, and a number of different ways.
Yeah.
And so you just have to, again, give yourself a little bit of credit, and give yourself a little bit of grace, and just kind of like continue to move forward.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it can be challenging as a coach too to try to help the people with that. And I think I have an interesting perspective in that at a lot of times I don't ever get away from it, not because of the gym, but because I have
Your
2 kids that are athletes, right? So, and I've seen them both go through highs and lows, right?
Ugh.
And I say the same things to them. I'll say to,
Any other
people in
person,
here,
yeah.
right? Like, let's say, for example, my son's struggling and like he couldn't get past the 205 snatch or whatever. Well, how much are you sleeping? How late did you stay up playing video games last night? What did you eat yesterday?
Yes.
Like, huh? Yeah. Putting Legos giant
Shout out
expensive
to
stuff.
Peyton.
Yeah. Giant stuff. Hey, it's his own money. Do his or build. Now he's building rifles. So
Sorry.
no, it's all good. But and over time he learned that like now, he's in the fire academy, he's actually eating a lot better because he has to PT there and he's still trying to lift there. But at the same time, I'm trying to tell him like, hey man, maybe you should adjust your schedule a little bit because you're only really running about 75-80% of your lifts capacity wise of what you could lift because you're not fully focused on it right now, right? So I'm like, well, why don't you lift on the weekends? So some of these days during the week you can just
You're
come home and
exhausted. Be a kid.
Yeah, so that's
right.
something I think he's kind of wearing himself out a little bit, right? Gone through the same thing with Paige where, she struggled for a long time getting past whatever her PR was on a clean and jerk.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden,
Yeah.
but the same thing, and she had to find that same balance because she, at one time, kind of got a little obsessive about the food thing, right? But now she's really relaxed, and you can see it. She's like, nope, I've already had this today. I'm gonna eat some salad. Like she navigates it with real life.
That's
but
awesome.
it's like sometimes I'd never really get away from it because one of them is having some kind of psychological issue with lifting, right?
Yeah.
But I see
And
it
then
all.
you have your days.
Yeah, and then I have my own days too, and I'm like, shut up, I don't want to talk about it. But and people, so they never get away from it, but I'm real with them about it. But so remember too, you're going to walk out of here having a bad day thinking, oh, I suck. Why do I do this? Cut yourself some slack, man.
Cut yourself some slack.
There have been days, Dan and I have had bad days together. We're like, this sucks.
Why do I even do this?
Let's just row and do some GHDs. And
you
we
know
just
what?
do that.
Sometimes it's okay,
Yeah.
right? If you're feeling like crap, come into the gym. Maybe don't even do the class, but the gym's open. Pick a wheelhouse workout for yourself and
destroy it.
Get your act together and feel good about it. That's okay.
Yeah.
I think something I want to bring into this, right? Like you said this, Dan, and then you talked about this, Chris. I think the third thing is knowing your output. Like you need to know yourself, right? Like I'm not going to row at a 130 pace where Dan might could hold that for a little bit. I sure as heck cannot. But I know that about myself and for a multitude of reasons. So like you have analyzed your goals. How are you measuring your goals? And then obviously taking notes about those. And I think the third thing is like you have to know your output. You have to know what you can reasonably give. Like I'm not going to be clean and jerking 300 pounds like Maddie Rogers, right? I don't clean and jerk 5 hours a day, 6 days a week. That's not an output that I'm ever going to get to unless I do those things.
Yep.
So I think you have to understand that about yourself.
She's also like 5'8", so.
She's 5'8". I mean, hey, I'm dense, Maybe one day. I'll never forget. This is a total side note. But my last coach was having me do like front rack holds one day at 300 pounds. And like for 6 seconds, might add, not long. I remember getting it out. And like in the whole 6 seconds that I'm standing there, I'm like, Maddie Rogers like regularly puts this over her head. I'm never gonna do that. I don't even know if I'll ever squat this to be that matter.
They're on another level.
Yeah, but that's something you got to remember. That's all they do.
Yeah.
Same with the elite CrossFitters, like the ones that are top. This is their job. They got sponsors.
This
They got this is what they're doing.
I think people want elite results with like junior level
input.
Yeah.
But that junior level input isn't necessarily their fault.
No,
it's
not
just
at
what
all.
life
No,
allows
and
them.
that's
at all.
kind of like what the CrossFit sports continuum has created.
Right.
Like that is the result of you seeing the CrossFit games on TV and on YouTube and everything like
Thinking
that.
that's the pinnacle.
Yeah, it's like sometimes the kind of like general overall fitness and like increased work capacity across broad time and middle domain gets pushed off to the side of what the real goal of CrossFit is, right? And so it kind of it's hard sometimes because the waters are a little bit murky when it comes to that.
And then they just randomly throw in something new or bring back something old school like wall-facing handstand push-ups.
Yeah, or like the pegboard, and now every gym in the world has a pegboard.
Yeah, when really like no one that is a regular person should probably be doing pegboards.
Yeah.
Like I've told multiple people this, and I stand by this. Like when I'm done being competitive, I will never do ring muscle ups again. I will probably never walk on my hands again just because it's caused me such heartache. I'll never do GHDs. Like they're just things that I don't need to do. Like the only reason I do those things is to maintain a competitiveness in the sport. Yeah. But not saying that they're dangerous, not saying that they're bad. And if you want to ring muscle up, we will help you get there, right? But like I just don't see the benefit in doing them, and I don't want to do them because after that goal of competitiveness ends, it doesn't need to be a part of my daily life.
Yeah, like my surgeon, when I'd had my left shoulder done, she used to do CrossFit, now just does Ollie, and which is nice to go to a doctor that's not hating on CrossFit like so many of them do. She was like, look, something like this, you might be perfectly fine. Or she's like, you may never do a ring muscle up again. And I was like, I'm okay if I can. Fine. I just want to be able to clean and jerk without my shoulder hurting immensely. I want to be able to lay on my shoulder and it not hurt. And I'm fine with that. Like, it's not, like, it's at the end of the day.
Because you enjoy clean and jerking.
Yeah. Would it be cool to just jump up and do 10 ring muscle-ups? Absolutely. But is it the end of the world if I can't? No.
I don't know if I'll ever say that statement.
But I can still bang out some bar muscle-ups.
I can bang out some bar muscle-ups.
So I got you there.
Right.
But that's the point. And I could go on this forever. That's another good point. Like, are you doing good at the things that you enjoy? Who defines what you need to be able to do in the gym? You. So if you can't do a ring muscle up, but you're doing like fantastic at the things that you enjoy, you're not a failure. Why does it matter?
Just because you can't do something, number one, doesn't mean you should be doing it. And also, like, having fun in here like should be a priority.
Yes.
Right? Like
yes,
again,
yes,
like
yes.
we said, you're gonna have shitty days.
Yeah, we're outside the 5 minutes. You're good.
Okay. We're going to have crappy days, right? Sometimes you're going to have to force yourself to come in here, right? But you have built an amazing community around here, and like all of the coaches continue to build that community with you of like a supportive community that wants to help people and like is
help the individual.
Uplifting,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you should be having fun in here.
So it's kind of like
it should be a release.
So like set yourself up for success because you want that feeling of when you walk out the doors to get in your car. Okay, cool. That was awesome. I got a good
enjoyed it.
workout.
I'm not saying
I got a good workout.
Yeah,
in.
I'm not
Yes.
saying like, all right, I enjoy doing wall balls. I'm just going to do wall balls. And no like so every single workout I'm going to do
Who
has wall balls
says
in it. But like,
Tall people.
but you know, like, have fun with it. You
Yeah.
know?
It
Sometimes I think we
discourages me
forget
when
that.
I hear people like have left the gym and they're like, I'm just really having a hard time mentally in the gym. You know, and they're like, I'm down on myself. I'm like, I don't want to come because I'm so upset when I come. And that is so disheartening as a coach, as an owner, as a friend, because that's never what this place is meant to be. Sure, we all want to work on our fitness, but like at the end of the day, we talk about this all the time. CrossFit is a community of people. And if you're leaving here and you're not having fun, then we got to figure out why that is. Maybe we can help. Maybe that's something that you have to wrestle personally.
Yeah.
But knowing these things about yourself and knowing what you're in here for can probably result in a solution, but you have to be man enough, woman enough to like look yourself in the mirror and talk about those things, or be vulnerable with a coach and talk about those
Yeah, that's
things.
just what I was going to say was like, again, talk to your coaches, right?
Yes.
Have those open conversations. Again, I know classes are really packed
Yeah.
full of stuff that we have to do, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of the times we're just shuffling class through and making sure everybody's moving safe and everything like that. But like, have those conversations with your coaches to say, you know, like, hey, what's going on? Or
Yeah.
if I'm sure if you don't feel comfortable talking to your coach, talk to Melissa or talk to somebody.
Yeah, talk to someone that you know that it has your best interest in mind.
Yeah, because I mean, the coaches again should have your best interest in mind. But again, we're trying to get the class going, make sure everybody's safe, everything like
Yeah.
that. And so like sometimes we have to move things through.
Yep.
But again, I mean, we're always there to talk to
Hey, and a lot of
people.
times there's other coaches in class.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
yes.
Because it kind of goes to like, I tell people a lot, and I've been reminding them, relative intensity. Because intensity beats volume. It's science. Go something
Yes.
you can do, like move good first, then we add intensity, right?
Yes.
But don't go past.
Technique, consistency,
See,
intensity.
don't add that too much until you're ready. Like I tell
Yeah.
people all the time, if somebody has to, I'd rather them overscale or modify.
Me
and
too.
Blow it out the water and then
Yeah.
go, oh crap, I should have lifted more, or I should have done
now
more
you
of
know
this.
next time.
Yeah, good. Make a note.
Yeah.
Hey, 20 wall balls was nothing for me. I need to not sandbag
Yeah.
that. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, go hard because that's usually, typically, if you modify properly or scale properly, you should be finishing at the same time or within a same time range as that person
Right.
that's fully RX and like that elite athlete.
Yeah.
You know, just because
'Cause it
the
all should
elite
be
athlete
relative.
does Fran in 2 minutes and you do it RX, but it takes you 10 minutes, you miss the stimulus of it. We should have scaled something to where you're within,
That
you know,
quick outburst, yeah.
whatever it is. And there is a fine line because sometimes you do have to push those limits. And you
Yeah.
do have to like fully RX it. Maybe it took you 4 minutes to do Fran, which is still totally respectable
Still
for the
great,
average person.
yeah.
But still, you have to push it like the 70-pound dumbbell yesterday. I would have got probably a lot more with just using a 50, but it was good to do to see what does that feel like. And I realized, hey, it wasn't that bad. I could
Yeah,
probably
breakthrough
actually
for you.
put out more. It actually told me you probably could put out a lot more on the 50 than you realize.
Then you're right.
So, you know, you got to preach to people all the time, relative intensity. If you don't have the volume for that, let's bring that rep scheme down or let's change this movement. So you're in that same time zone, like
Yeah.
this
But
morning
Again,
with the
that goes
row.
back to knowing your output, right?
Yeah.
Knowing your output while also speaking with your coach,
Yep.
right? Of like, hey, I know I can't do that many, you know,
Mm-hmm.
wall balls or whatever, or like whatever, you know, name the movement. I can't do that
Yeah.
many of them, right?
Right.
Your coach should be able to say, hey, well, you know, I love telling people this, right? Like, let's try a little bit. And then once they go away, or like once you've done 5
Move
of
to
them,
this.
move to this.
So you
right?
finish the volume. Oh, I love that. Thank
yeah.
you.
So like that's huge for me.
Yep.
And when I coach is like, hey, like I want you to try something all right, we tried it, you were fresh, I think that was the best time to try it. Now let's make sure that we can,
Yeah, because usually when we want them to try it, we see it in them that it's there.
It's there.
Maybe it's a mental block we're trying to get you past.
Yeah.
Maybe you need to try it a little bit until they're gone.
Yeah.
And then let's bring it back. And you see a lot of athletes, they start to learn what their modifications are. Because right before we're getting ready to go, I usually kind of go around, hey, you good? Are you good? Hey, what are you doing for this? I was planning on doing this. Awesome. Because they've been in my class before and they already know that, hey, for toes to bar, I want you to do straight leg raises or something.
Yep.
And you start to learn. So if you get with the coaches, you kind of start to learn what has to happen. And then you can take it to the next level, and then maybe you're going back to your coach saying, hey, I've been doing this for this amount of time and they're getting super easy.
Yes.
What do you think I should do now? Like, should I go towards RX and maybe bring reps down? So you got to find, like, what is the goal I'm trying to reach? How do I get there? Like, where's my relative intensity? What's my output? And stay in your bubble.
And I think something that, I know we've been going for a while, and I obviously we want to wrap it up at some point, but I think something that would be very useful, and I'll put this with the clip that I posted about the podcast, is what are these things that may be causing you roadblocks? So something that I just wrote down that you said, Chris, is too much too soon. You're trying to RX workouts too soon. And, like, don't get me wrong, I want everyone to RX workouts at some point if that's what you want. As long as we're doing it safely and, like, respectfully as far as, like, the workout. But that's a big reason that you could be hitting roadblocks. You're trying too much too soon. You're not ready to do those things.
It is drinking from a fire hose coming in here.
It is.
Like,
it really
is. We do
is.
so much, and it's always changing. It's always different. And things played together differently, right? It's a lot.
I agree. And I think some of the other things that we've talked about, as far as, like, things that could be causing you some roadblocks, the second one would be you're comparing yourself to someone that's not comparable. And maybe just comparison in there is a good insert for that, but you're comparing apples to oranges, basically.
Yeah.
And you're not doing yourself any favors by doing that, because, like you just said, if you're trying to row with Dan and you're not a great rower, then you're a fish trying to climb a tree. Probably ain't gonna happen, right? Like, you got to be able to compare to someone relative and something that's relative. I do believe is a good point to make.
It's a slippery slope.
It is a slippery slope. I mean, comparison alone,
that'll ruin some goals really quick.
Yeah. That's why I really tell.
Really
like, that's why I think coaches, like, I mean, I'm biased. I think we have the best coaches, but talking to someone who is unbiased to you is important, I think, for a lot of these things. Because, again, just like the example I used from the other night, I told this person, I don't think you're ready to do that in this setting. And I'm going to say that as respectfully as possible, not trying to hurt your feelings, but knowing your overall goal. Sometimes we can't see the forest for the trees if we're looking at it ourselves. And I think that's a big hurdle that people have to get over.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the staying in your bubble thing. Like, I've seen people, this was a long time ago at Tidewater. I walked in, I was getting ready to coach, and I saw somebody just doing what looked like some sort of barbell or bar muscle up progression. And I walked over, I was like, hey, what are you working on? Oh, I'm working on my bar muscle ups. Oh, cool. How many strict pull-ups can you do? None. How many kipping pull-ups can you do? None.
How many chest to bars can you do?
And I like, looking back, it's a hard thing to broach, but I'm like, what? You don't have, like, what are you doing? Like, and my fear in there is not that I'm trying to I'm not trying to downgrade the person.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
But
exactly.
it's like, I don't want you to get hurt. Because you probably don't have the shoulder strength or health to do that.
Yes.
And then if you do get hurt, then I don't have you as an athlete in the gym anymore for a long time.
Yeah.
And then maybe you're gonna then you get the bad taste in your mouth about CrossFit that people, everybody gets hurt.
Oh,
yeah. No.
Thank you.
It's not,
actually,
right?
it's not us. It's
being
you.
dumb.
Yeah. So, and I had to have that talk with that person, and I think they were mad at first. But what's funny is her husband was like, he's right. So I walked away at that point. Got him. And again, that was another person where I said, hey, do this EMOM for pull-ups and get good at pull-ups,
Yes.
Like, in a perfect world, you should have kind of a progression to get there of how you're going to get to, because of course, like, coming in and seeing somebody do butterfly pull-ups, sexy. Yeah. It looks cool.
Yeah, you're like, wow.
But, like...
Yeah, Christian Maple's going up there doing 15 bar muscle-ups unbroken with his shirt off.
Right.
Like an absolute
dog, like a dog. Right.
You know, it's like hard to not.
After a night of drinking.
Yeah.
Someone put the dog count in the corner of this.
But so anyway, I got a little off track there, but with that, but like, you know, coaches can kind of, they can help put you on the right track.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And
And
that's
then-
why we're there, right? Like,
Yes.
again, if there's a common denominator in this whole conversation, it's
Yeah.
lean on your coaches, right? Like
Lean on them.
That's why we are here. Like we are.
Yeah.
And I know I speak for us three, but like the other coaches as well, we are not afraid to ask questions.
Yep.
We're not afraid to say.
And if we don't know the answers, we're going to
Yeah.
the person that does.
Yep.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
And
There's
so-
been times I've been like, man, I'm not sure about that. Let me get back with you. And I'll either
Yeah.
ask somebody else or there was one talking about low bar back squats, right? And I reached out to Phil.
Yes, I remember
you know,
this.
and Phil's
Yes.
like a legit like
Professional.
kinesiology professor, been to like dude can move weight. I texted him and asked him his opinion on low bar back squat. And he's like, well, why? What do you think? And I started typing. He's like, dude, you hit it the nail on the head. I agree with you of what it does capacity-wise. And some people don't want to hear that, though. Because what they don't want to do is say, like, oh, I do it because my mobility sucks. Well, why aren't you working on your mobility?
Yeah.
Let's don't put a Band-Aid over the problem. Let's fix the
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah, let's
Exactly.
fix the root of it. And
Yeah.
and so we will, as coaches, I don't know everything. I will research. I will go find
Yes.
stuff out and figure it out,
Absolutely.
because not only do I want to help make you better, maybe that I've just found a hole in my game
Yeah.
that I
Yeah,
need to
that's
fix.
a
Yeah,
Great
because we,
point.
yeah,
Yeah.
are as coaches should be curious and should be constantly trying to learn and take in
Yeah,
information.
our
so that we can
knowledge
just be
is
better.
only contributed to y'all. Like the things that we know are only there so that we can help everyone else. And if you're bringing up something that we don't know, we're like, I can't best serve you if I don't know that. Then
Yeah. So I think, you know, like for the person that brought up this great topic that we could probably talk forever on,
Yeah.
is that give me a list. Tell me the things where you think you're hitting roadblocks, and let's
Yes.
figure out a couple realistic goals, and let's eat that elephant one bite at a time.
Yeah.
realistic.
And let's work on that, you know, and we can do a check on me and see how you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And where you're getting
Maybe
at too.
we'll get that whole thing of like coaches having their peeps up and running a little bit faster.
Because you know, it may not be we all have our genetic limitations, right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Be honest with yourself.
Right,
Yeah.
I'm never going to be an Olympic swimmer that's going to win a gold medal. It's not going to happen, right?
Samesies.
Right. I'm not going to be an NBA basketball player. It's not going to happen. But maybe your limitations or what's affecting you has nothing to do with your capacity or your athletic ability. Maybe there's something at home you're dealing with. Maybe there's something at work you're dealing with. Maybe you're not
That was
getting
my
enough
third
sleep.
thing. That was my
Maybe you
third
eat
thing.
like crap. Okay. Maybe
Yes.
you're inconsistent in your eating like me. Like you have to figure it out. But see, that's realism though.
Yeah.
You know, like that's realism. You got to let's figure out what that is. And if you're honestly hitting all the marks on all those other things, we can figure out where those deficiencies are in the gym, and we can
Yes.
start chipping
Yes.
away at those
Yeah.
things.
And you have to fix one thing at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Like I see
Yeah.
a lot of people do this too. They're like, "Well, I got my nutrition in. I did this. I did this. I did this." And I'm like, "Well, now we don't even know what's going to fix the problem
Right.
because you did everything all at once."
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I don't want to prolong your suffering, but like we need to narrow down the problem and try to fix it with one thing at a time. If in 6 weeks it's not fixed, we're going to go into step number 2, step number 3, so on and so
So
forth.
I love the social aspect, just like a lot of people do of CrossFit. Like
Yeah.
after class, you see people huddled up in the corner.
I
They're
love
all circling up, shooting the shit, getting to know each other, right? And that's awesome, right? But don't say
Ooh,
you
Chris,
don't. You
hit
don't.
him, hit him
Don't
with it,
say
Chris.
you don't have time to say do a 10-minute EMOM getting better at something when you
you're
sat
sitting
there
down
for 30 minutes,
Yeah.
eating a snack, you're eating your protein bar,
Sitting on a box.
right? Sitting on a box, hanging out, right?
Ooh-wee. We're gonna have some unfollowers after this.
No, they'll know. They'll laugh and they'll be like,
The
"Yeah, he
gym
got
will
me."
be closing next year.
But that's the same thing, because I could say like mobility. Dan and I do it all the time. We should be warming up more. We should be stretching and doing mobility, but we just go, we get chalk and grips and send it. I'm gonna
Little
warm
chalk
up
here, little chalk there.
Does a cheetah warm up before it takes down a gazelle?
That's true. See, that's our philosophy. But
Oh
but
my
Terrible.
gosh.
Don't listen to me. Don't listen to me. Just joking.
we'll be like, we'll just warm up during the row. So
Yeah,
is that the right way? No, but like it's being real and saying,
Agreed.
that's why maybe my workout felt like crap today,
Yeah.
because I didn't warm up.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why my knees felt like crap. Like if I'm legit gonna like really PR my back squat, I know I need to come in and do some extra warming up, some
Yeah,
mobility,
exactly.
Yes.
squat a little bit
Yeah.
longer.
Yes.
And you gotta do that work.
And a lot of the times too, right? Like like I said, with the workouts, just the limitations of what CrossFit is, right? A lot of the times there's limitations as far as what we can do in the hour.
Yeah, we have
right?
an hour.
So, we have an hour, right? Like it's, if you realistically want to PR your back squat or really
probably need 90 minutes.
do a full cycle,
Yeah.
or do a full back squat cycle, it needs.
And that's it. That's all you're doing.
Yeah,
You're probably not
exactly.
even doing a Metcon.
Yeah. And so, again, keep things in perspective. What lens are you looking through?
Yeah.
That was my disclaimer for every class I coach when we were going through the 1 reps.
Yeah.
I said, look, 20 minutes or 18 minutes is not
tight.
I tell them realistically, I would want to see you have minimum 45 minutes just to do that.
Yeah,
but
I would have
we
almost
don't.
preferred it was called
Just
like work
that.
up to a heavy.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Instead of a 1 rep max, I agree.
Because, like, example for me on deadlift day, I didn't even get close. I didn't get close to my PR because it's 5:30 in the morning. I wasn't even warmed up. I'm
It's
just
tough.
like, it's hard to deadlift. Is it partially an excuse? Yes, it is. But
That's okay.
I know I would deadlift more in the
Yeah.
afternoon, so I mentally knew. I knew by the time I got to 3:15, I'm like, I'm not going to 450 today. It's not
Yeah,
happening.
it's not
It's
happening.
too early in the morning.
Not enough
my back
time
hurts.
left. Yeah.
I'm too old. Whatever it is.
Too old.
Combination of the things, right? Didn't get enough sleep.
knees hurt.
My knees hurt. Where's my walker? But yeah, you got to be realistic with yourself,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
know. And if you really want to take, that's why I love when we talk about working out on Sundays.
Oh,
is
I love a Sunday.
because it takes one of my days during the week. I got some room in there.
Takes the stress out of it. Yeah.
And you can do other things.
Yeah.
So take your spare time and work out if you really want to get better at something.
I agree.
Right? Or just be happy with your hour. 'Cause
Yeah.
I think that's what
Yeah,
a
for
lot of
real.
people
Yeah,
enjoy
why are
out
we
of
upset?
not just
Yeah.
CrossFit, but any fitness class.
Yes.
Because you can walk in, you don't have to decide, am I doing
Tell me
buys
what
and
to do.
tries, chest. Somebody's going to tell me what to do exactly down to the minute for an hour, and then
like, get it
fist bump
done.
me at the end.
Yeah.
And I can do more after. I can hang out and do nothing. I can leave, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And remember, at the end of the day, that was the original intent: is to
Yep.
come in here
Yes.
and get fitter
Yes.
in an hour and have the best hour of your day.
Yep.
Right?
Exactly. I think we can pretty much wrap this up, and I'm going to go over these things, and I'm going to put this
You
obviously.
just want to
like I
wrap
said,
it up. Let's be real. You want to wrap it up. Talk about realism because you got to go
What?
coaching a little bit,
I mean, I do have to coach, but I got.
and you got to eat your other
Can we
snacks.
take a break before we wrap this up and put a bow on it?
Take a break.
Do you want to?
Yeah,
Okay, we'll take a break.
You're gonna put a bow on it?
I gotta pee.
Okay, we're back.
Y'all better?
Yeah, I'm great.
You had to potty. All right.
This is a long one too.
Yeah,
I feel like.
that's okay.
Yeah.
They're only going to probably get longer as we
I
have
know.
more and more
I
guests on.
talked for a while, so
Yeah.
it's probably
That's okay. That's good, man.
Stan.
That's why we're doing this, man.
The worst.
That's why we're doing this.
I really enjoyed your story. I think people, and someone has told us that they want to know more about all the coaches. So I think that's a great thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Don't beat yourself up about it, buddy.
So, all right, let's do this. Let's go over your list you came up with.
Okay, yeah, so this is applicable and measurable, and these are the things that we need to think about when we talk about roadblocks, okay? First thing is analyze your goals. We spent a bunch of time on that, knowing what you really want at the end of the day out of all of this. Number 2, how are you measuring your goals, and are you taking notes on those? It's not really fair to say, well, 6 weeks ago, I couldn't do 30 ring muscle ups for time. And then 6 weeks later, I also couldn't do 30 ring muscle ups for time. But you have no idea what you did in between and kind of how you worked on that. Maybe you did a big unbroken set and you felt like crap. And then this time you did small sets. If you didn't take notes, you're not going to know that. So take notes, and how are you measuring those goals? Third and final thing we need to think about when it comes to roadblocks is knowing your output, knowing what you can feasibly give each day and just in general. Some people that go to the gym were collegiate rowers. They're probably going to row a lot better than me always. I'm not ever going to be able to give the same output, but I need to know that. And then the other list that I made is some things that you should consider if you're hitting roadblocks, as to why you may be hitting roadblocks. So, too much too soon. We're trying to RX workouts when we can't do the movements well or proficiently. That's not smart. And maybe not just RX, right? Maybe just adding more weight when our technique's crappy or whatever. The second thing is make sure you're not comparing oranges to apples. I mean that in people, I mean that in your performance, I mean that in a whole host of reasons. But like I said earlier in the podcast, a couple weeks ago, we did that EMOM for people in their pull-ups. make sure you're measuring the next time you do this an EMOM of pull-ups and what you're getting. We don't want to be using workouts, fatigue, other people to measure our success. That's going to set you up for failure. And then the third and final thing is what's going on outside of the gym. We talked about, did you sleep well? Are you eating right? You know, maybe you're just really stressed. Maybe you have some tough life things going on. All of those things are okay. But those are some things to think about when you are coming up to these roadblocks and kind of how to decipher to get through them, I think. Anything you guys want to add to?
Give yourself a break.
Yeah.
Give yourself a break. I'm going to write that. Break.
Don't be so hard on yourself.
Don't beat yourself
also,
up.
That's last tangent, I promise. But like,
It's
think
never
about
going to be
that.
the last. It'll just be on the next podcast.
Yeah, the next podcast. We're going to talk about this. But like, I think about that all the time. Some of our members come in 6 days a week, every week. And I can't tell you the last time they took a week off. And I'm like,
that doesn't hurt.
It doesn't hurt.
I can confirm that does not hurt.
Can't confirm. I've come in like after 2 or 3 weeks off and like actually felt better.
Yeah.
Surprise. I took rest that my body needed and I felt better.
Yeah.
So giving yourself a
You'll
break
notice
is a big
it.
one.
I notice it frequently, like in the stuff that I measure with my watch, right? Like where if I take 3 days off, I'll know my sleeping gets better, right?
Interesting.
Or like I'll know that I don't know, name a measurement. It's probably getting better.
I've challenged like my go-to for like the men. Do women's RX. Do it for like a week or two and see how you feel. Ladies, take 20% off of everything.
Yep.
See how you feel.
Come
do
back
it for like
in.
a week or two.
That way you can still come in, still get your hour, but you're not like
You don't feel like
slamming
you're
the wall.
You don't feel like you're beating yourself up.
Yeah, I love
And you're
that.
still moving. You'll feel better.
Love
just
that.
try it and see how you feel. So yeah, you don't have to just put it away.
Yeah,
but,
or take a legitimate week off and then come back in and
Whoa,
smash it.
I can tell you that
Smash
the
it.
last time I did that between last season and this season, I took like a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks off. And I came back in and my snatches were the crispiest they've ever been. Because number one, I was fresh. And number two, I was like, I'm actively thinking about the snatch, like, and what it should look like because I haven't done it in 2 weeks. And I'm like, whoa, let's go.
I can tell you what not to do. Don't get off a red eye from California and go straight to the gym and work out.
Smart.
Don't do that.
Horrible.
Horrible
It was
idea.
horrible.
I
I'm like,
hated myself.
The whole workout, I'm like, why am I here? What am I doing with my
did
life?
I really lose fitness?
That
yeah.
was a bad decision. That was bad.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's okay. I think the overarching thing is it's okay to take time off. It's
Yes,
okay. It's
agreed.
okay to rest. Like, I know there's a lot of people at every gym that you probably have to tell to take a day off.
Oh, I'm
right?
thinking of a handful of people right now.
And so, like, again, give yourself a break, right? It's okay
Yes.
to take a day
Some
off, mow your
grace.
grass, and to have a beer. You know what I mean?
And if you really
Like,
feel like you have to come for the mental thing, just come in and get on the bike.
Get on
and
the bike.
stretch.
Some zone
shoot the
two.
breeze
Yeah,
with people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Come in and stretch and
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, work on mobility?
Yeah.
Odd.
What?
Yeah.
Never heard of it.
Never heard of it.
Never
So-
heard of her.
All right.
Mobility.
I think we covered a pretty good amount. So
Yeah.
you guys ready to wrap it up?
Yeah.
All right. So first off, if you got cool topics or something you want to talk about, you want us to talk about, send it to me, send it to Melissa. You can tell Dan if you see Dan
Tell
when he's
Dan,
coaching.
now that you know Coach Dan.
Yeah. Of course, obviously, if you're hearing this, you're watching the podcast. We thank you for your time
Yes.
and watching it. Had fun today. Thanks to my boy Dan for
Yeah.
coming on, especially
Yeah, buddy.
since you got a lot going on right
You
now,
have a
man.
lot
You've been
going
putting the
on.
miles on the road.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I appreciate you.
Hopefully this
having
was a
me.
good mind off of some things. Hopefully.
Yeah, no, it
Hopefully.
definitely
Yeah.
was. Yeah,
Good.
no, I
And-
appreciate you guys having me on.
He doesn't know it yet, but Dan's going to probably be a semi-regular. So, yeah. We'll even,
And, make sure that you wear your matching shirts next time,
yeah.
team.
And we didn't plan this.
I know.
We
That's
didn't
what
plan
you call
it.
in sync, all right?
Yeah. See, coaches are in sync.
Yeah, we know what's going on.
Yeah. What was that? Heartbreak Ridge. You ever seen that movie with Clint Eastwood? I know you haven't. You don't even know who George. Oh, you got to watch it. You'll see the T-shirt thing. Yeah. I know. I'm
Dang.
dating myself
He sounds
right now.
like you're showing your age.
This is so old, guys.
Yeah. All right.
Well, we have to sign off now. People have told us that stay gritty is it.
Here to stay.
So,
Yeah.
so I think
Stay
is
green.
it locked in?
I think we got to
Because
lock
I
it
even got
in.
people out of state that have told me it's it.
I
Yeah.
mean, hey, stay gritty.
Greg said it. We should go with stay gritty.
Dude, Greg
We'll get
said
some
it.
shirts
Papa Greg
made.
said it, dude. It's
Yeah,
in.
it's in there.
It's in.
It's
Yeah.
Bible.
So we'll go with stay gritty. So I'd love to say somebody else came up with it, and I was going to give them a Starbucks gift card. but it was me. I came up with it. So
Oh gosh.
so if these T-shirts hit,
Here you go, buddy.
I
Yeah.
better get a free shirt.
I'll give you a free shirt.
Free shirt, and it better not be one of them short crop tops
Okay.
Short crop top.
Okay.
Short crop top.
You caught me.
or a unisex
No,
sweatshirt
no, no.
that's
It's about
too
the
small.
same. It's
But
gonna be
those are
something
home. I
different.
think those are all homemade short crop tops, aren't they? You don't buy them.
Yeah,
like
I don't
that.
buy them like
Yeah,
that.
make
yeah.
him a homemade short crop top.
Right underneath the nipples.
I'll pay you. Yeah, I'll pay you.
So short that every time I reach, you see the nipples.
Yeah. Oh yes.
Yes.
All right, so let's we'll wrap this up. Thanks, guys, for listening
Yeah.
for our third podcast. We got more guests coming on. We got other cool topics coming on. So I think we're pretty close to starting to have to record more than every other week.
I know it's getting there. I definitely think so.
So it's not
Yeah.
that hard. So all right, anything else?
Stay gritty.
God, you stole my line.
We can say it in unison. You want to say
see
it
you
in
guys
unison?
later.
No, I don't want to say.